A steady clip-clop sounds as carriages approach the grand mansion. A small, pale hand reaches toward the bottom of a window. The black-haired girl gasps while struggling to peek outside. She reflects on the difficulty of her small 10-year-old body. Her yellow eyes widen as she realizes the moment has arrived. From her window, she watches the arrival of ornate carriages. Sirius Hyperion, the Emperor's brother, arrives to become the new Duke. Nearby maids pity the boy while criticizing the Emperor's harshness. The girl dismisses their naivete, knowing Sirius was born special. Despite his imperial blood, Sirius is considered an illegitimate child. Born as a wolf pup, he lacked a human form. Legend describes the arrival of a wolf embodiment after centuries. A mystical wolf emblem glows with a celestial, starry energy. His mother, a legendary warrior, was shocked by his birth. The girl wonders if such a history truly makes a legend. When Sirius was born, a crown prince had already been chosen. The prince slaughtered everyone who favored Sirius as the next emperor. However, he could not bring himself to kill the infant Sirius. Killing the sacred wolf embodiment would cause the royalty's myth to collapse. After years of isolation, 10-year-old Sirius is exiled to the north. A sudden shove startles the girl as she watches the window. Courtney mocks her behavior while Joseph suggests ignoring their sister. The girl realizes she lives in a house of absolute lunatics. Her eldest brother vanished while hunting monsters in the winter. The Duke remains indifferent while reading about his son's death. The second brother died seeking poison resistance, earning the Duke's scorn. The third sister committed suicide under the pressure of family tests. The Duke merely sighs, expressing disappointment in her perceived failure. She identifies Courtney, Joseph, and herself as the remaining children. The Duke preaches that compassion is a weakness to his heirs. He demands they eliminate emotions to secure the family inheritance. Sirius was sent here specifically to be treated cruelly and die. Courtney screams at the girl for ignoring her ongoing rant. The girl panics as she realizes she is still in the room. She decides that running away is her best course of action. Walking away, she considers the danger this house poses to Sirius. She envisions the bloody ambition of the future adult version of Sirius. She remembers reading this story before becoming a character within it. A soft huff escapes her as she appreciates knowing the future. The scene shifts to the quiet wooden staircase of the mansion. She resolves that her family's inevitable destruction doesn't concern her. Her current plan is to remain silent and do absolutely nothing. She yawns, intending to escape only once the family goes bankrupt. She wakes suddenly and wonders why she is in this room. Her heart pounds as she hears a voice like a protagonist's. Recognizing Sirius's presence, she panics about her door being open. She covers her mouth to remain undetected by anyone nearby. The silver-haired boy walks through the hallway past an older man. She feels relieved when she hears that he has already left. Elena prioritizes the boy's temperature while worrying about his badly swollen hands. A soft slide sounds as Elena applies cooling medicine to the boy's injuries. Elena carefully treats his wounds while the sleeping boy groans in pain. Silent tears stream down the boy's face, making Elena feel deeply sympathetic. Elena observes the scene with golden eyes, feeling increasingly uneasy and concerned. A soft mumble sounds as Elena wonders why the sleeping boy is crying. Elena recalls the future version of Sirius, who was never this vulnerable. A cold gaze reflects the hostility that once filled the Imperial Palace. Elena reflects on the mistreatment Sirius endured while a stern woman watched over them. Elena feels a sense of relief, realizing the boy is no longer alone. Elena wonders if the boy is crying because he finally feels safe. Elena wishes the boy would make a sound instead of crying so silently. A soft sigh sounds as Elena hopes the boy will be less sad. A light tremble sounds as Elena watches the small, innocent-looking boy sleep. A soft groan sounds as Elena reaches out toward the boy's hand. A firm squeeze sounds as Elena gently takes the sleeping boy's hand. Elena notices the boy is calmer but finds it difficult to leave him. Elena eventually falls asleep beside the bed, surrounded by a peaceful floral aura. A soft chirp sounds as morning light streams through the bedroom window. A long yawn sounds as Elena wakes up late in her own room. A metallic creak sounds as Elena decides to go find some breakfast. Elena's golden eyes widen in shock as she spots a familiar figure. A heavy silence sounds as Elena finds Sirius waiting for her in the hallway. Elena panics, questioning if the events of the previous night were just a dream. Sirius asks Elena if she slept well with a calm, steady expression. Elena smiles nervously, feeling as though the silver-haired boy is glaring at her. Sirius questions why Elena arrived so late for their morning meal today. Elena makes a quick excuse about staying up late to hide her secret. A soft flinch sounds as Sirius asks why she's acting so curious. Sirius clarifies that he simply wanted to ask her about her late arrival. A quick tap sounds as the tension breaks and they head toward breakfast. A low mumble sounds as Sirius warns Elena not to be too relaxed. Elena watches the boy walk away, finding his change in attitude very strange. Elena worries that Sirius might suspect her of helping him during the night. Elena considers that the boy might actually have no clue about her visit. Elena recalls that Sirius never even opened his eyes while she was there. Elena rationalizes that only a god could have known she was beside him. Elena watches the boy walk, noting he appears wobbly but miraculously conscious.
Elena takes pride in her nursing skills as the boy's condition improves.
Elena smiles amidst a floral background, relieved that the boy survived the night. The two children sit at opposite ends of a grand, quiet dining table. A metallic clatter sounds as Sirius encourages Elena to enjoy her breakfast. Elena eats quietly, noting that the boy seems to have forgotten last night.
A soft scrape sounds as Elena wonders if he will keep ignoring her.
A sharp startle sounds as Sirius commands Elena to follow him after eating. Elena's golden eyes reflect her absolute confusion at the boy's unexpected order. Sirius looks back with an irritated expression when she asks for an explanation.
Elena sweats nervously as she follows him, annoyed by his lack of clarity.
A heavy sigh sounds as Elena follows the boy out to the grounds.
Elena is stunned to find that Sirius has brought her to a shooting range.
Sirius commands the girl to stay and wait until he finishes. Elena reacts with immediate outrage, questioning why she must obey him.
Elena considers speaking her mind, but stops herself out of fear.
Sirius asks what she is doing while Elena worries about exposure.
Elena finds the boy's constant fault-finding incredibly irritating and annoying.
Elena resolves to tell the boy exactly what she is thinking.
Elena loses her nerve and asks to sit nearby instead.
A loud growl sounds as Elena rages internally about her compliance.
Sirius stares silently at the girl as she contemplates her situation.
A joyous cheer sounds as Elena celebrates being allowed to set. A quick dash sounds as Elena runs toward a distant tree. A soft thud sounds as Elena flops onto the green grass.
A relieved sigh sounds as Elena enjoys her moment of relaxation.
Elena reflects on the boy's gaze when he granted her request. Sirius previously dismissed the girl as completely useless during their first meeting. Elena decides that being seen as useless can no longer hurt her. A long stretch sounds as Elena enjoys being a passive passenger.
Elena feels a sense of freedom from having to sneak around.
Elena worries that any reckless actions might reveal her true identity. Elena reassures herself that catching up on work will fix everything. A heavy blink sounds as Elena's fatigue from nursing finally hits.
A sudden gasp sounds as Elena wakes to find blood everywhere.
A sharp startle sounds as Elena realizes Sirius is standing over her.
Elena notices an excited aura and fears the boy is injured again.
A sudden movement sounds as a bloodstained hand reaches toward her.
Elena is baffled by why the boy is extending his hand.
Elena realizes the silver-haired boy actually wants to hold her hand. Elena hesitantly reaches out to accept the boy's blood-covered hand. Elena wonders what is wrong with him but cannot refuse him. Elena admits to herself that the gesture has made her shy. Sirius asks if his hand is too cold for her comfort.
A light fidgeting sounds as Sirius questions why she is pulling away.
A nervous laugh sounds as Elena considers her instinctual fear of him.
Elena panics, worrying that a slow response might make him angry. A bright chime sounds as Elena smiles and decides to praise him.
Elena wonders how she can deliver such nonsense with a calm face.
A determined fidgeting sounds as Elena resolves to offer him some praise. A soft, huh, sounds as Sirius reacts to the girl's praise. A floral aura sounds as Sirius demands that she praise him. Sirius repeats his demand, insisting that she hurry and praise him. A sharp shock sounds as Elena reels from his unexpected request. Elena is disturbed by his affectionate smile and suggests cleaning the blood.
A light trembling sounds as Elena's hand shakes while reaching for him.
A soft patting sounds as Elena nervously strokes the boy's silver hair.
Elena notices the boy seems unimpressed with her half-hearted head patting. Sirius asks if she witnessed the events at the shooting range earlier. A sharp turn sounds as Sirius explains the Duke's shock at his survival. Elena reflects on the harsh persecution the boy endured the previous day. Sirius reveals he skipped class to hunt a monster for extra training. Sirius stands victoriously over a defeated black monster, his sword bloodied. Elena observes the boy, realizing the monster is why he is bloodstained.
Elena finds it impossible to imagine herself battling a monster alone.
A sharp turn sounds as Sirius locks eyes with the stunned girl.
Elena grows increasingly nervous as the boy continues to stare at her.
Sirius maintains a persistent and intense gaze, leaving Elena feeling very confused. A sudden movement sounds as Sirius abruptly stands up, startling the girl. Elena is surprised as Sirius turns and walks away without a word. Elena feels completely speechless and annoyed by the boy's sudden, silent departure.
A soft thud sounds as Elena flops onto the floor, celebrating her freedom.
Soft rolling sounds as Elena returns to her room and relaxes happily.
Elena is relieved that Sirius never mentioned her secret visit last night.
Elena reflects on whether Sirius is actually human after his display of resilience.
Elena considers that if Sirius recognized her while unconscious, he cannot be human.
Elena feels at ease, certain the boy cannot uncover her secret actions.
Elena begins to bitterly repent of her foolish and naive assumptions.
Elena reflects on the truth that Sirius is actually more than human.
Elena realizes that a truly perfect crime can never exist in this world.
Elena prepares to admit one more truth as she reflects on the situation. The scene shifts to 30 minutes before the disaster at the boy's bedside. Sirius lies bloodied on the bed as Elena recounts information from the maids. During Duke Road's reign, Sirius's swordsmanship skills improved at an inconceivable rapid speed.
Despite his exhaustion, Sirius showed incredible stamina by returning to the training grounds.
Sirius's exceptional talent and extraordinary diligence made him more outstanding each passing day. Duke Road became curious about the boy's genius while watching him train others. Joseph, whose specialty was swordsmanship, became a key figure in the Duke's interest. The Duke ordered a head-to-head battle, leaving the final winner a mystery. Joseph grew frantic, fearing defeat by someone who recently started sword training. Joseph launched a desperate, unexpected attack before the official countdown had even finished. A sharp clang sounds as Sirius narrowly manages to dodge the surprise strike. Duke Road coldly allows the battle to continue despite Joseph's clear rule violation. A sudden wet squelch sounds as Joseph's sharp sword penetrates through Sirius's waist. A dull thud sounds as the wounded Sirius collapses onto the cold floor. Duke Road looks down with disappointment, noting Sirius almost dodged the blow. Duke Road stops the battle and sentences Joseph to punishment for his violation. Before leaving the training hall, the Duke addresses Sirius with one final word. A sharp rustle sounds as Elena checks her own clothes for any blood. Elena returned to the room instinctively, determined to overcome her fear and help. Elena notices Sirius attempted to bandage himself, but he is still bleeding heavily. Elena eavesdropped on the maids and chose to act alone to avoid risks. Joseph likely sent the doctors away, but Elena knows Sirius will eventually triumph. Elena recalls a book describing Sirius's childhood as full of misfortunes and grief. A soft stop sounds as Elena halts her treatment, fearing a deadly infection. Elena looks at the unconscious boy, urging him to live for his revenge.
Elena continues to plead with the silver-haired boy to hang in there, Ane.
Elena realizes she needs more supplies to stop the boy's excessive heavy bleeding. A heavy grab sounds as a blood-stained hand suddenly seizes Elena's white sleeve. Elena's golden eyes widen in absolute shock at the boy's sudden, firm touch. Elena's frozen in surprise as the injured Sirius sits up and stares. Elena stares back at Sirius, terrified to realize that he is actually awake. The silver-haired boy stares intensely, wondering why the girl is awake. Elena trembles with fear, sensing the boy has become incredibly dangerous. Elena struggles as the boy seizes her sleeve, feeling completely paralyzed. The boy stares up at the girl and asks for an explanation. Elena panics internally, unable to find a believable excuse for being there. A sharp rustle sounds as Elena considers fleeing while she still can. Elena reacts with absolute shock as the boy pulls her closer. Elena suddenly collapses onto the boy, their faces inches from each other. Elena worries about the boy's wounds while processing the chaotic situation. Elena freezes in embarrassment, realizing she is now far too close. Elena feels trapped as she tries to think of a way out. Elena decides to lie and insists the boy is only dreaming. The boy asks what she means as she covers his eyes. The silver-haired boy begins to laugh softly under the girl's palm. Elena is stunned by his smile and tries to maintain her lie. Elena desperately repeats that he is dreaming as she loses her nerve. Elena whispers that he will forget everything when he wakes up tomorrow. A soft release sounds as the boy finally lets go of her. Elena sits back, surprised to find that the boy has fallen asleep. Elena watches the boy's peaceful face, doubting he actually fell asleep. Elena wonders if she has a hidden talent for hypnotizing people. Elena decides to return to her room while she is still safe. A soft stop sounds as Elena pauses, doubting her own safety. Elena realizes the boy saw her face clearly when he briefly woke. Elena recalls the boy's intense vigilance despite her attempts to help. Elena frets over the original storyline, fearing her early death is imminent. Elena worries that her panic prevented her from reading the boy's expression. Elena resolves that she has no choice but to escape the estate. Elena begins packing her things while the boy lies unconscious nearby. Elena considers the comfort of the estate despite the Duke's cruelty. Elena looks at the sleeping boy with a deep, silent hesitation. Elena notes the boy looks better but remains worryingly pale.
Elena focuses on mixing herbs to finish treating the boy's wounds.
Elena reaffirms her decision to run away from the dangerous situation. Elena rushes away, determined to leave before Sirius can harm her.
Elena finds comfort in her golden eyes as she prepares for change.
Elena stares ahead with resolve, ready to run at any sign of danger. Elena's hand trembles as she reaches for the door to her freedom. Elena reflects on how quickly her carefully laid plans have crumbled. Elena returns to her own room and collapses in complete exhaustion. Elena searches for valuables but finds nothing of worth in her quarters. Elena packs her medical supplies, noting they are her only real assets.
Elena sighs, doubting anyone would buy medicine from a young child.
Elena reassures herself that she still has time to prepare for Sirius. Elena reasons that the Duke would never tolerate Sirius killing her. Elena rationalizes that the boy needs her help to survive the winter.
Elena nods to herself, accepting that achieving happiness will take work.
Elena decides to eat breakfast before starting her day of preparation.
Elena's golden eyes widen as she senses something strange at her door. A heavy drip sounds as blood falls from a pair of boots.
Elena gasps as her eye widens in absolute shock at the sight. Elena enters the room, finding Sirius sitting on the window ledge as he casually asks if she slept well.
Elena responds nervously, her mind reeling at his calm demeanor as he watches her.
Elena is shaken, wondering why he acts as though everything is normal. Elena observes the blood-soaked bandages on his waist, confirming that last night's events were no dream.
Elena reflects on the severity of his injury, knowing such a deep wound could easily have been fatal.
Elena finds it unsettling that despite his pain, he is behaving so strangely.
The silver-haired boy gazes at her with a gentle, serene expression.
Elena is bewildered by his visible happiness, wondering what could have caused such a shift. Elena continues to ponder his upbeat attitude as she watches him.
Elena notes the warm aura surrounding him, realizing his pleasant mood seems surprisingly genuine.
Sirius leads the way as they prepare to leave the room together. Elena worries about the boy's incredible resilience and potentially unstable mental state. Elena finds his current kindness far more unnerving than the hostility she originally expected. Elena is stunned to see a truly sincere smile on the boy's face.
Elena considers trying to sneak away while he seems preoccupied with his own thoughts.
Elena's attempt to distance herself fails as he purposefully matches her slow pace. Chibi versions of the pair illustrate Elena's feeling of being led like a captured deer. Elena's startled when the boy suddenly leans in to ask if she has something to tell him.
Elena quickly waves her hands, desperately denying she has anything to say to avoid his suspicion. Elena awkwardly suggests they hurry to eat, her stiff movements betraying her internal panic.
They arrive in the dining area as the morning light streams through the large window. Elena stares in disbelief as she is served a simple, modest bowl of soup. Elena feels overwhelmed by the absurdity of the situation, nearly driven to tears. Elena remains deeply confused by the boy's uncharacteristically kind behavior toward her. Elena reflects on how bizarre it is for someone like Sirius to act so sweet.
The pair sit across from each other as Sirius politely encourages her to start her meal.
Elena picks at her food, puzzled by his lack of vigilance and improved mood.
Elena recalls her desperate efforts to save him last night, questioning how he currently perceives her. Elena finds herself completely losing her appetite given the tense and confusing atmosphere.
A sudden sharp knock at the door startles both children during their meal.
Elena wonders who would interrupt their breakfast as Sirius calmly grants the visitor entry. A maid enters the room pushing a cart laden with several silver-domed platters. The maid explains that the Duke has sent a special restorative meal for the boy's recovery.
Elena realizes her father has acknowledged the boy's success and is now providing a reward.
Elena internally scolds her father's insensitivity for sending rich food instead of proper medical care. Elena is baffled that the Duke would think steak is suitable for a stabbing victim. A close-up reveals a lavish plate of juicy meat steaks and lemon.
Elena's resolve crumbles as she stares longingly at the delicious-looking feast meant for the boy.
Elena tries to focus on her own soup, reminding herself that the meat is not hers to have. Elena is shocked as a piece of meat is suddenly dangled right over her bowl. Sirius uses his fork to offer her a piece of utopian, telling her to take it.
Elena is flustered as the boy impatiently insists she hurry and accept the bite.
Elena hesitates but finds herself unable to resist the temptation of the high-quality steak.
Elena decides to give in and eat the piece of meat he has offered her. Elena's face lights up with joy as the incredibly delicious flavor of the steak overwhelms her.
Elena enjoys the meal, her worries momentarily forgotten as she praises the excellent food.
The silver-haired boy watches her with a subtle, contented smile on his face. Elena is frozen in shock as Sirius casually mentions that she appeared in his dream. Elena tries to maintain a calm facade while pretending to be surprised by his strange claim.
Elena panics, wondering if he remembers her visit last night. Her golden eyes widen as she fears he's warning her. Sirius mentions she has appeared in his dreams before. He claims she held his hand, leaving her speechless.
Elena wonders if he was conscious during her previous visit.
Elena recalls the night he arrived after grueling training sessions. She remembers kneeling by his bed to offer menopause care. Elena held his hand while he cried out in tan.
She realizes he shouldn't be able to remember that, Robert. Sirius notices her silence and asks why she won't speak. Elena stares, realizing this is their first real long conversation.
She notes how unfamiliar it feels to be talking properly. Elena feels uneasy and considers being honest with him now.
She tentatively asks what kind of dream he experienced.
Sirius describes it as a nice dream, confusing her further.
He reaffirms his pleasant memory while watching her closely.
Elena doubts him, thinking his injuries should have caused nightmares.
Sirius offers her more food, ignoring her clear mental turmoil.
Elena pouts, frustrated that he won't give a straight answer.
A fresh plate of food is placed before the girl. Sirius finds it amusing that her thoughts are so visible.
He notes that she looks upset by his lack of clarity.
Sirius reflects that what he always wanted has finally happened.
A soft, genuine smile appears on the silver-haired boy's face.
The story takes a pause as the scene shifts perspective. A carriage travels down a sun-drenched path through the woods. The gates of the road dukedom appear through the ringau. A young Sirius prepares himself for his new living situation.
He initially felt a small glimmer of hope for change.
He recalls the relief of escaping the terrible imperial castle. Sirius remembers surviving the deadly plots of his half-brother.
He reflects on knowing his food was often laced with poison.
Hunger forced him to eat the dangerous meals regardless. He had pictured a normal, peaceful life away from the palace. He dreamed of simple mornings and safe meals with friends. He imagined a life of playing and sleeping in comfort. Sirius wished for someone to tuck him in at night.
The carriage stops as the household staff waits to meet him. His hopes vanish when he sees the Duke's cold eyes.
Sirius recognizes a familiar, dangerous gaze from his past life.
He realizes this new home is just another recurring nightmare.
The Duke observes him coldly, like a snake with a toy.
He senses the deep malice from everyone in the household. Sirius resolves to meet their enmity with his own hostility. He decides he must survive here, just like the castle.
A maid informs him that his new quarters are ready. Sirius concludes that his miserable situation will never truly change. He walks upstairs, certain the Emperor sent him to hell. He realizes questioning the staff's motives is a waste of time. Sirius dismisses everyone so he can be alone in silence.
Sirius feels a sense of futility as he walks alone. A sudden creak startles the boy, prompting a confused reaction.
He wonders if the wind has pushed his bedroom door open.
Elena bursts into the corridor, her golden eyes wide with excitement. The young girl throws her arms around Sirius, shocking him completely.
Sirius reflects on the unexpected moment he first met the girl.
He remembers her striking golden eyes and her unique family resemblance. A chibi Elena illustrates how she felt out of place. Elena wanders through a sunny field filled with vibrant yellow sunflowers.
Sirius recalls how their interaction began when she followed him home.
He remembers teasing the girl until her face turned bright red. The memory of laughing and feeling genuinely happy warms the boy.
He notes how his stoic expression hid his joy from Elena.
Sirius questions the girl, who seems flustered and at a loss. Elena peeks through flowers to bid him a shy goodnight. A sudden thud sounds as the girl leaves him standing alone. Sirius reaches for the door handle, feeling an unfamiliar sense of shock. He enters his room, processing the impact of the simple greeting.
Sirius sinks onto his bed as he ponders her simple words.
His heartbeat quickens as he realizes she wished him a good night.
He reflects on receiving a wish he had long ago abandoned. Sirius flops onto his mattress, regretful of his behavior all day.
He realizes how rude his constant staring must have seemed earlier.
Sirius regrets the careless words he used to dismiss her presence.
He thinks about his upbringing, being taught to discard useless things.
Despite his coldness, he is moved that she still breathed at him. He considers the simple evening greeting as a proper, meaningful connection. The boy stares blankly as his cold, emotional walls begin crumbling. Sirius realizes this place is fundamentally different from his former home. Back in the present, Sirius celebrates a fulfilled wish over breakfast. He decides to leave the memories of his past weakness behind.
Sirius stares intently at Elena, wondering why he still feels strange.
Sirius notices Elena's distress and asks what is bothering her. He urges her to eat her meal before the food pulls.
Elena feels incredibly frustrated by his confusing and uncharacteristic behavior.
Elena senses a depressing blue aura emanating from the silver-haired boy. A chibi Elena worries if her pickiness is offending her host.
Elena peeks at him, her mind racing with countless uncertain thoughts.
Sirius watches her silently, unable to decipher her current state of mind.
Elena continues to stress over her lack of appetite for the meal.
Elena decides to drink some water quickly to settle her mats.
A sudden gulping sound follows as she drinks the water down.
Elena chokes violently on the water, causing Sirius to jump up.
Quick tops sound as Sirius rushes to pat her back.
Elena is startled by his sudden proximity and his apparent concern. Elena insists she is fine now despite his questioning look.
Sirius questions if she is ill, but she quickly denies it.
Elena finds it bizarre that Sirius is genuinely worried about her.
She laughs off the incident, explaining she simply drank too fast.
Elena is stunned that a stabbing victim is worried about her health.
The silver-haired boy bluntly tells Elena that she is incredibly weak.
Elena laughs nervously as she explains she was born a bit delicate, but thinks she is quite normal, prompting the boy to question her claim.
Sirius stands silently with bandages wrapped around his torso, looking down with a thoughtful expression. Sirius reflects on his rapid healing, attributing his survival to his wolf blood while noting how fragile ordinary humans seem.
Sirius views Elena as the most pathetic and weak creature he has ever encountered.
He finds it intriguing that such a weak girl went to such great lengths to help him survive. A moment of heavy silence passes between them as Sirius stares intently at the girl. Sirius reveals to himself that he has actually been conscious and remembers everything she did for him from the very beginning. He recalls her approaching his bed with a gentle touch, thinking that such kindness must have a hidden motive. Sirius remembers the moment her hand grasped his, yet he remains suspicious of her intentions. He watched her until she eventually fell asleep at his bedside, exhausted from her efforts. Back in the present, Sirius points out the abundance of medicine in her room and asks why she doesn't take it, but she insists she isn't ill enough for a pill. Elena panics, wondering how much he truly knows, and tries to flee to her room until Sirius calls out her name. Sirius offers a surprising, friendly smile and asks if she would like to watch him train. The scene shifts to the expansive training grounds of the dukedom, equipped with various weapons and targets. Elena sits on a stump in the sunlight, dazed and wondering why she actually agreed to come along. She recalls being unable to refuse his request because he was in such an unusually good mood.
Elena convinces herself that she did the right thing, figuring it is safer to stay on his good side for now.
She reflects on how she preferred staying back to watch rather than being dragged directly onto the training grounds like before. Sirius agreed to let her watch from a distance, acknowledging that the training area could be dangerous for her.
Elena watches him from the shade, her mind wandering as she observes the silver-haired boy.
She notes that he still looks quite small and delicate despite his intensity.
Elena quickly reminds herself that his size is deceiving, as he is a wolf capable of immense violence. A brown-haired boy named Joseph approaches Elena, carrying a heavy load of wooden practice swords.
Joseph is shocked to see her there and yells out in a sudden, angry outburst.
Joseph demands to know how she dares to talk back to him, while Elena notes that he still views her as a social outcast.
Narrative text suggests that Joseph's efforts to gain his father's favor are futile, as Sirius is destined to destroy the Rhodes family hierarchy.
Joseph grows increasingly enraged by her silence, accusing her of arrogance and wanting to watch him suffer.
Elena observes his attire, realizing he has been demoted to a squire as punishment for his previous actions during the duel.
She pouts slightly, confirming to herself that his current low status is why he is so irritable.
Elena bluntly tells Joseph she has no interest in seeing him and wouldn't waste her time on something so stupid.
A heavy thud sounds as Joseph drops his bundle of wood in pure shock at her defiance. Joseph stands up tall and looms over her, offended that she no longer calls him her older brother and is ignoring him like an insect. Joseph mocks her, asking if she is finally scared, and suggesting she beg for his forgiveness while there is still time.
Elena stares at him with a blank expression, causing Joseph's face to redden as he realizes she is completely ignoring his threats.
A sudden, chilling voice from behind Joseph asks what he thinks he is looking at. Sirius approaches them across the courtyard, holding a sword and looking calm, yet dangerous.
Elena looks toward him in surprise, whispering his name as he draws closer.
Joseph stammers in disbelief at seeing Sirius moving so well, while Elena firmly corrects him to address the boy with proper respect.
Joseph is baffled by the impossible recovery he sees before him, as Elena calls him an idiot for his reaction.
Elena recalls her own initial shock at seeing Sirius up and moving normally so early in the morning. Elena thinks about how she was just trying to give Joseph some sibling advice, but Sirius coldly declares that such a thing is impossible.
Joseph loses his temper and grabs Sirius's shoulder, shouting that his recovery makes no sense.
Elena covers her eyes and cries out in terror, fearing that Joseph's touch will trigger a violent and bloody response from the wolf boy.
Sirius stares up at Joseph with a deadly gaze, asking when he ever gave him permission to lay a hand on him.
Joseph is paralyzed with fear as he stammers, realizing the terrifying pressure emanating from the silver-haired boy. Sirius clenches his fist and demands an immediate answer from the terrified squire.
Sirius's purple eye narrows with a fierce, cold intensity that signals imminent danger.
Sirius bumps past Joseph and tells him to get out of the way unless he has anything else worth saying. Joseph stands alone, shaking with a mixture of intense rage and humiliation as he glares at the pair. The brown-haired boy swipes his hand in a sudden fit of frustrated rage.
A detailed look at the dark, patterned coat and medallion worn by Duke Rhodes. Duke Rhodes stands in the distance, watching the children on the training path.
The children are struck with terror upon seeing the red-eyed Duke Rhodes standing before them. Duke Rhodes walks toward them, noting he told Sirius to rest and questioning why they are still there.
Elena trembles as she notes her father's gentle voice and realizes she wouldn't have waited for Sirius if she knew he was coming.
Duke Rhodes narrows his red eyes, thinking he has had a bad feeling since this morning and knew today would be terrible.
Elena stares at her own shoes, deciding she cannot blame Sirius since he didn't know their father would arrive.
The sound of quick, heavy steps echoes as Elena reacts with sudden shock to the approaching presence. Sirius calmly explains they were just talking with Joseph, while Elena looks on in startled disbelief. From off-panel, Duke Rhodes questions if the intensity of their conversation was due to his arrival.
Elena observes her father and Sirius, noting the Duke seemed to be paying attention to her when he appeared.
The brown-haired girl falls into a nervous silence as she stands before the powerful man.
Duke Rhodes asks what they were discussing for so long, and Sirius replies that Joseph hasn't answered his question yet.
The Duke smiles and asks what the question was, as Elena notes how intense the mood is for a simple conversation between kids.
Joseph bows deeply before his father as the Duke casts a brief glance toward the others.
A sudden, intense shudder runs through Joseph as the Duke demands that he finally answer the question.
Joseph tries to dismiss the matter as nothing, but the Duke coldly declares he will be the judge of that once he hears it.
Terrified and sweating, Joseph stammers as he begins to explain what Sirius had asked him.
Joseph reveals Sirius questioned when the Duke ever gave him permission to speak informally, prompting a thoughtful hum from the man.
A dark shadow falls over the Duke's face as he mutters that he understands the situation, leaving Elena speechless. Elena senses an aura of curiosity and interest from her father that makes her want to stay far away from him.
With a sudden whoosh of his cloak, Duke Rhodes turns and commands Joseph to follow him.
Joseph walks away dejectedly, following closely behind the Duke as the scene shifts.
Elena breathes a sigh of relief that she wasn't involved in the conversation, though she remains pensive. A quick grab sounds as Sirius suddenly catches Elena's wrist, prompting her to gasp in surprise. Sirius looks back at the girl with his piercing purple eyes and bluntly announces it is time to go. A chibi Elena looks completely bewildered, her head spinning with confusion about where they are headed. Elena follows along quietly, wondering where Sirius is leading her while acknowledging she has no choice but to follow. As they walk through the sunlit grounds, Elena thinks they are simply taking an aimless stroll to nowhere. Elena realizes that being with Sirius makes her feel peaceful and comfortable, contrasting with the usual stress her father causes. The chibi girl panics internally, shocked by her own realization that she finds Sirius's presence comforting. Elena reflects on her feelings, admitting to herself that she has felt this sense of comfort for a while. She watches Sirius's back, noting that despite being small, he stood firm against the Duke's overwhelming presence. Elena finds it strange that the boy makes her feel safe and considers if he is actually trying to protect her.
She stares at his hand grasping her wrist, questioning if his actions are a deliberate attempt to help her.
As she follows him, Elena feels a surge of gratitude for Sirius's unspoken effort to look out for her.
Looking toward the future, Elena worries that this developing bond might lead to trouble later on. Elena remembers promising to stay out of the way, yet she finds herself more involved with the boy than ever.
Sirius suddenly stops and asks Elena if she has a specific place she wants to go, catching her off guard.
Elena thinks it is silly that he wasn't lost but simply hadn't chosen a destination, and admits she has nowhere in mind.
A quick clap sounds as Sirius is struck by a good idea, his expression brightening with interest.
Elena observes his behavior, noting that he is acting more like a normal child than he ever has before.
She looks into his eyes, surprised to see that his usually tense face has finally relaxed.
Sirius asks what she usually does at this time, leaving Elena feeling like she is in a very difficult position.
Elena mentions she usually reads in the library, though a tiny chibi version of her screams in panic at the thought.
Sirius immediately grabs her hand and happily heads for the library, while Elena realizes her prediction of staying together was correct.
Elena regrets her honesty as she realizes they might be stuck together for the entire day. She watches her own feet as they walk, determined to find a way to leave before she gets dragged into his mess. A heavy creak sounds as Sirius pushes open the library doors, asking if they have arrived while Elena clears her throat nervously.
Sirius addresses the girl formally and asks if she has anything she wishes to say.
Elena stammers an excuse about needing complete solitude to select a book from the library. She privately hopes this reasoning will be enough to convince the boy to leave. Sirius appears deeply hurt by her request, looking at her with wide, dejected purple eyes.
Elena's inner monologue screams about how irresistibly cute he looks when he is being sad.
She compares him to an abandoned wolf pup and questions her own sudden emotional vulnerability.
The girl tries to stay firm, reminding herself he is likely scheming despite his innocent face.
Sirius looks up with pained puppy eyes, asking if he is forbidden from waiting outside.
Elena's resolve collapses as she loudly and frantically declares that he actually can stay. She immediately regrets her outburst while Sirius looks visibly relieved by her sudden change of heart. Sirius happily promises to wait there, leaving the girl struck by his overwhelming cuteness again. Sirius tells her it is nice to see her smiling, leaving her completely flustered and confused. Elena enters the library, wondering about his comment but deciding she likes what he likes. She reflects on how seeing the silver-haired boy's angelic face was far too much for her.
Elena concludes that allowing the silver-haired boy to stay was a very good decision.
The scene shifts briefly as the story continues into the quiet atmosphere of the library. A narrative bubble confirms that everything is proceeding just as the young girl had hoped. She reaffirms to herself that allowing the boy to remain nearby was the correct choice. Elena stands alone in the vast, silent library, lost in her own complicated thoughts. The perspective shifts, showing the small girl standing still in the center of the room. Elena suddenly snaps out of her daze, questioning her own sanity and recent weak behavior. She paces around frantically, wondering if she was drugged or just acting temporarily insane.
Elena acknowledges she fell for his appearance attack, but admits he really is very cute. She stops herself and reminds her heart to stay focused on his dangerous nature.
Elena recalls that the silver-haired boy is destined to destroy the entire empire one day. The girl decides she must be careful, even if she is unsure what to fear.
Elena notes that Sirius has mastered the ability to captivate and manipulate everyone around him.
She remembers reading that he remained popular and pursued despite killing many of his fiancés.
Flashbacks reveal he once seduced a noblewoman to eliminate a rival faction through her devotion. A book describes how an assassin hesitated because his face was considered far too precious.
Sirius killed that assassin without mercy, proving he has always been a ruthless and deadly lead.
Elena realizes the original novel mostly ignored his early childhood years as a mere stepping stone.
She reflects on his past, which was filled with hardship and lacked any descriptions of cuteness.
Elena decides to distract herself by skimming through one of the many books in the study.
The brown-haired girl sits at a large table and begins reading in the sunlit room.
She pauses her reading, wondering if this silver-haired boy is still waiting outside the door.
A quick tap sounds as she rests her hand on the book, feeling suddenly irresponsible.
Elena walks toward the exit, deciding to peek through the door to check on him. A sharp voice calls out to her, catching the young girl completely off guard. Elena turns in shock to see the brown-haired boy Joseph looming in the library. She notes Joseph's dark aura and realizes he is likely in a terrible, vengeful mood.
Elena acknowledges that Joseph is incredibly difficult to manage whenever he is feeling this angry.
A chibi Elena stands quietly while narrative text advises against interfering in the family hierarchy.
The girl thinks about how some people enjoy poking at others in such tense situations.
Joseph holds out a dark bundle and demands that she deliver it directly to Sirius. Joseph adds that she must specify the item as a personal gift from the Duke.
Elena hesitates and questions if the gift is dangerous, which only further enrages the squire.
Joseph loses his temper completely, shouting insults and ordering her to just obey his command.
A loud whoosh sounds as Joseph throws the heavy dark bundle directly at her head.
Elena cries out, "Kayak!" in terror as the object flies toward her face. Walking through her room, Elena resolves that she must be more careful.
She reflects on the family's potential chaos before being startled at the door.
The girl accidentally bumps into a silver-haired boy while trying to leave.
Elena recognizes the boy as the protagonist and exiled prince, Sirius Hyperion.
Two children stand together quietly under the vast starry night sky.
The girl finds herself shocked to have physically collided with the young prince.
Both children remain completely silent following their unexpected and sudden physical collision. Sirius dismisses their collision by comparing the impact to a mere gust of wind. Elena despairs over her ruined peace while secretly admitting the boy's charm.
She envisions a future where the handsome boy becomes a terrifying, blood-soaked lunatic.
Elena is visibly shaken by the thought of the boy's future cruelty. She apologizes and thanks him for preventing her injury to avoid his wrath.
Thinking she succeeded, she tries to push away and escape the awkward scenario.
The silver-haired boy firmly grabs Elena's wrist to keep her from leading.
Sirius catches her off guard by bluntly stating that she is really pretty.
Elena is confused that someone so beautiful would give her such a compliment.
Sirius repeats his assertion when she asks for clarification regarding his sudden praise. She remains skeptical, feeling that his cold expression doesn't match his kind words.
Sirius notes her resemblance to the Duke and demands to know her identity.
Elena introduces herself, surprised to learn that he already knows who she is.
She acknowledges her title, but wonders why he is intently inspecting her modest room. Sirius peers into the doorway and asks if this simple space is hers.
She confirms the room is hers, though he seems surprised by its simplicity.
Elena finds his behavior impolite for a noble, despite his young age.
She dismisses the room's plainness as nothing special and unrelated to anyone else.
Sirius mutters that things are alike, which leaves the girl completely confused.
She wonders if he is comparing her sparse room to typical noble quarters.
Narrowing her eyes, she rejects the idea that such a comparison is true.
Elena describes the lavish room a lady should have, which she currently lacks. She remembers a past where her room was filled with plush toys.
Her sister Courtney now enjoys the luxury of the room Elena once owned.
Despite losing her former wealth, Elena finds her current room much better.
She recalls her father's teaching that one must prove themselves to earn things. Elena reflects on the pressure of proving her worth to her ruthless family.
A heavy, intense silence continues between the children in the hallway.
Elena hopes the boy will leave so she can finally be alone.
She is startled to realize that Sirius has been staring at her intensely.
Sirius walks past her, noting that her earlier answer showed no lacks.
He leans in close, making Elena panic about what he might do next. Sirius coldly declares that a certain existence is simply useless to him.
The boy turns away and leaves, leaving Elena stunned and breathless.
Elena collapses to the floor, overwhelmed by the intensity of their brief encounter.
Sirius recalls a legend about the family's golden eyes being their greatest treasure. He admits to himself that the girl's eyes are indeed as clear as jewels. He compares her eyes to the Duke's, finding hers have a better luster. Sirius identifies her as the most special but weakest member of the house.
He concludes that her weakness makes her a useless existence in his eyes. The family gathers in the Grand Hall as the Duke announces their arrival.
Duke Road prepares to formally introduce the royal guest to his assembled children.
The Duke introduces Sirius Hyperion, the Emperor's brother, to the gathered family.
Sirius suddenly catches the heavy bundle just before it hits Elena. Elena is stunned that Sirius actually returned to her side. The girl wonders why Sirius's cheeks are flushed so red. Sirius apologizes as Elena wonders why he is the one apologizing.
He explains he was told to wait outside, but she objects. Elena feels a twinge of guilt for making him wait outside. Sirius repeats his apology while his hand reaches toward the girl. Elena is shocked as Sirius gently pats her head.
Elena senses a sharp change in his presence as he turns.
Joseph stammers as he reports the successful delivery of the item.
Joseph attempts to leave as Elena notices Sirius's intense stare. Sirius stops the boy, questioning his intent to throw things and flee. A loud bang sounds as Sirius kicks Joseph into the bookshelves.
Joseph asks if he should apologize while trembling with disbelief.
Sirius smiles darkly and refuses to accept a forced apology. Joseph panics as Sirius steps forward with a cold intensity.
Sirius prepares his next move with sudden and focused speed.
A heavy thud sounds as Sirius delivers a brutal strike.
Joseph groans in pain, clutching his chest as the boy looms. Joseph screams in agony as the relentless assault continues. Wide view shows books falling as Joseph collapses into feet. Elena watches in shock, finally understanding the cause of the blush.
She realizes Sirius's flushed face was never about being sorry.
Sirius's skin turns red from the sheer excitement of the violence. The boy's eyes glow with a chilling, bloodthirsty joy for the fight. Joseph tries to crawl away while cursing Sirius for his cruelty.
Joseph yells that the hit didn't hurt while struggling to breathe.
Sirius stares down at the boy with a haunting, empty expression. Sirius tells Joseph to endure the pain better next time. Joseph prepares to strike back as he yells at the silver-haired boy.
Sirius suddenly catches Joseph's wrist as the boy attempts to strike.
Sirius grips the wrist tightly while Joseph struggles to get free.
Joseph is horrified that his hand won't budge against Sirius's grip.
The boy wonders why the difference in their strength is overwhelming.
Joseph cries out as he feels his wrist is about to break. Sirius smirks darkly and asks the boy why he should stop.
A sudden whoosh sounds as Sirius throws Joseph into the bookshelf.
Sirius stares at the fallen boy, feeling no sense of amusement.
Sirius tells Joseph that he almost caused harm to Elena. A vision of Elena's smile appears as Sirius delivers brutal blows.
Joseph sobs and offers to apologize if Sirius will just stop.
Sirius remains silent as he gazes down at the pathetic boy.
A heavy crunch sounds as Sirius steps on Joseph's bleeding hand.
Joseph panics as he realizes he shouldn't have spoken so rudely.
Joseph wonders why Sirius has such a blank expression after the violence.
The silver-haired boy's eye shows he is coldly analyzing something.
Joseph fears the monster wants to prevent him from fainting during torture. Sirius claims he never actually needed the boy's apology in reality.
Sirius reflects on a childhood where words were hollow and manufactured.
His purple eyes reflect the dark knowledge learned in imperial palaces. Crunch, he decides to simply step on his fallen enemy.
Halt! He stops suddenly as if struck by a new thought.
He realizes he must consider Elena's feelings and prevent further harm. Flinch, he is startled by her sudden and visible distress.
Tremble, Elena clutches her head in terror as he checks on her.
Patter, he rushes to her side while she frantically shakes her head.
Shiver, she's overwhelmed by the metallic scent of fresh blood. Elena laments that such a cute face hides a violent nature. Scream, her weak stomach cannot handle the brutality she just witnessed. Grab, he takes her hand firmly and she reacts with a flinch. He kneels and expresses concern over her cold hands and health. Squeeze, she realizes he only acted out of a desire to help. Sob, despite his protection, the memory of the violence remains terrifying.
Swish, she feigns surprise to mask her pale and shaken expression.
Sigh, Elena wonders why the boy seems so heavy with exhaustion.
Lift, he suddenly reaches out to pick the girl up.
Startle, he calls her weak as he lifts her into his arms.
Step, he carries her away while Joseph lies defeated on the floor. Elena reflects on their confusing and suddenly intimate dynamic. Sweat, she feels far too awkward to ask for his release.
Eventually, she finds himself finding peace in the boy's quiet warmth.
Step, they arrive at her room after she accidentally drifts off. Blush, she realizes with embarrassment that she hasn't thanked him yet. Bow, she offers a sincere and deep thank you for his help.
Startle, she worries that her gratitude was expressed far too late.
He smiles kindly, glad to see her healthy color has returned. Elena notes his innocent expression as he prepares to speak. Thump, he asks what she wishes for him to do to Joseph. She acknowledges Joseph's wrongdoing but refuses to dwell on the punishment. Panic, he offers to break the boy's wrist, but she refuses. Elena begs to avoid any further bloodshed or violence in the future. He stares at her with a chillingly calm and unreadable gaze.
He stops her and insists that they follow a new method.
She looks toward the window and asks where he is leading.
A firm resolution reveals he is going to meet the master. He expresses a desire to tell the Duke about their relationship. He stops her again, insisting his way is the most effective. Elena is shocked by the sudden plan to meet her father. Mumble, she hesitates as they stand together in the grand hallway. Reach, he offers his hand to comfort her if she feels afraid. He acknowledges her fear but maintains that this matter is vital.
Elena remains silent as she processes the weight of his words.
She wonders why he suddenly has urgent business with the Duke. Her reluctance grows as the reality of the meeting sets in. She asks if he would go alone and he simply agrees. Sparkle, she decides it is better for them to go together. Sigh, Elena regrets her decision but feels she must accompany him. Grin, he smiles brightly, seemingly unaware of how others might think.
Hold, she takes his hand and they head toward the Duke.
The girl gazes ahead with a soft and knowing expression. A firm agreement echoes over the sprawling sunset-bathed castle grounds. The Duke works diligently at his desk while his daughter waits. The Duke informs the brown-haired girl that Joseph was easily defeated by Sirius, and she confirms she heard the news from an attendant. The Duke laments his wasted years of instruction as the brown-haired girl visibly flinches, a sudden flinch sounding. A sudden whoosh sounds as the Duke hurls a glass object across the room. The Duke remains seated at his desk while the sound of shattering glass fills the air.
The brown-haired girl maintains a smile, reminding herself to endure anything to eventually succeed her father.
Her hands clench as she dreams of inheriting the family's immense wealth and endless magic ore.
The girl desires the absolute power to command everyone in the household. She resolves to take everything for herself while looking toward her father. She looks at her father with disdain, wishing that the talented silver-haired boy was actually her own son. The Duke praises the silver-haired boy as the greatest natural talent he has ever seen and asks for his daughter's opinion.
The brown-haired girl quickly offers her agreement, claiming she shares the exact same view as her father.
The Duke contemplates his future obedience to the king's royal orders.
The daughter thinks that her father should be beyond anyone's control. Historical records note that despite the family's wealth, they remain subordinate to the imperial household of Hyperion.
Legend states that their power to read emotions cannot overcome the powerful werewolves born to protect the crown.
The imperial bloodline has weakened over time, yet Sirius has emerged as the first wolf descendant in centuries.
A dark smirk accompanies the realization that the perfect moment has arrived.
The Duke concludes that he has no choice but to integrate the silver-haired boy into their family. He considers using one of his 2 daughters in a marriage to secure the boy's loyalty. A maid enters the study to announce that the silver-haired boy and the black-haired girl wish to see the Duke.
The Duke reflects on the timing, noting he would normally reject the black-haired girl's presence.
The Duke orders the maid to bring the 2 visitors inside immediately.
The Duke dismisses the brown-haired girl, who leaves while hiding her intense curiosity and frustration.
A soft patter sounds as the 2 children finally enter the study. The brown-haired girl casts a sharp glance at the pair as she exits the room.
The silver-haired boy greets his master while the black-haired girl offers a hesitant greeting to her father.
The Duke accepts their apology for the late visit, stating he would have already refused them if he were truly bothered. The Duke observes the silver-haired boy's fearless aura, noting his total lack of nervousness. He attempts to read the black-haired girl's emotions, but finds her presence completely unreadable. He considers how the girl's nature differs entirely from the boy's. His former interest in the black-haired girl has turned into a deep and visceral disgust. The Duke asks their purpose, and the silver-haired boy demands a specific reward for his performance. The Duke acknowledges his previous promise to reward the boy's successful training session. Narrative text praises the boy's desperate will to survive and train despite his many injuries. The boy requests a tutor for his studies, and the Duke admits to neglecting his education in favor of swordsmanship.
The silver-haired boy acknowledges the response before making his main request.
The boy asks for the black-haired girl's constant presence during his studies as his chosen prize.
The Duke stares in silence at the sight of the children holding hands.
He concludes that the boy has finally found a sense of belonging within the dukedom.
A dark smirk appears as the Duke considers the ease of his new plan. He believes that emotional manipulation will bind the boy more effectively than any political arrangement.
The Duke reevaluates the black-haired girl, finding her useful for the first time in her life.
He feels a sense of satisfaction in finally finding a purpose for his daughter.
He reflects on a past murder, feeling his actions are finally becoming justified. Please provide the text you'd like me to read.
A heavy stone hallway echoes with a sudden metallic creak.
A man lies bloodied and broken inside a dim prison cell.
The man outside calls for his brother Linus, who lies motionless.
The prisoner remains silent, staring blankly with a single orange eye.
A man in a dark uniform stands coldly outside the bars. A sharp click sounds as Hugo gazes down at his brother.
Hugo thinks that his brother's eyes seem far too alive.
He notes that the prisoner still calls him by his name. Linus coughs blood and remarks that the situation isn't even funny.
Hugo thinks it's unpleasant to see his look-alike in this state.
Narration notes the brothers were once mistaken for identical twins. While Linus was always smiling, Hugo possessed a dour nature. A moment of tense, heavy silence settles over the prison cell. Hugo feels that Linus is staring as if to devour him.
Hugo mentions good news, prompting a confused question from Linus.
Linus sits up suddenly, begging his brother Monk to tell her.
Hugo notes his brother's quick realization while Linus calls his game.
Hugo confirms the child's birth, and Linus offers a tearful thanks. Hugo stares silently at the emotional display of his broken brother.
Linus names the girl Alina, honoring a promise made to Stacy. Hugo scoffs, finding the talk of promises and names entirely ridiculous. Family laws forbidden non-heirs from continuing the bloodline to prevent illegitimacy. The Duke believed that scattered family power only brought future trouble.
Driven by love for a maid, Linus broke the rules.
It was clear the merciless Duke would punish them with death. Their flight was halted because Stacy's pregnancy prevented a quick escape.
Linus was captured, imprisoned, and his legs were brutally broken.
Hugo eventually devised a more effective way to handle the situation.
To save Linus, Stacy voluntarily stayed while Linus stopped winning.
Linus asks if Stacy is safe, but Hugo remains hauntingly silent.
Hugo claims she appeared healthy immediately following the child's birth.
Linus stares back with deep suspicion glinting in his orange eyes.
Linus claims that Hugo is observing him through the golden eye.
Hugo thinks that because his words are true, Linus cannot detect deceit.
Despite Stacy's safe delivery, the order remained for her immediate execution. Hugo believes raising Elena as his own is the best plan. Linus leans against the bars and offers a desperate new suggestion. Hugo repeats the prisoner's word, questioning the nature of his request. Linus begs his brother to save the daughter he cannot protect.
He argues that raising her as a true heir hides her status.
Hugo prepares to name the final brutal price for his help.
He demands that Linus die in exchange for the child's life.
Linus accepts the deadly deal with a peaceful and certain smile.
Hugo is surprised that his brother agreed without a moment's hesitation.
A sickening thud sounds as blood spatters across the dark background.
A sharp blade pierces through Linus's chest in the dim light.
Linus coughs violently as he begins to succumb to the wound. He collapses onto the floor while whispering his brother's name.
In his final moment, a bloodied Linus whispers a grateful thanks.
Hugo looks down coldly and thinks his brother was truly stupid.
Hugo looks down, find it incomprehensible that Linus would offer thanks.
Narrator describes a brilliant child with perfect golden eyes.
Narrator states that this child holds the future of this world. This secret ability of the Road's successors would be truly incredible.
Hugo reflects on how the child he raised was actually disappointing.
Despite repeated death threats, Elena showed no growth and only suffered.
Hugo scoffs at the legend while a new opportunity arises.
Sirius asks the black-haired girl to join his study class.
Hugo wonders if playing the savior role has any actual benefit.
The Duke grants permission for the boy to have his reward.
Hugo narrates that 10 years have passed since he killed Linus. He reflects on the murder, finding his past actions finally useful.
A sudden flash sounds as Elena awakens with her glowing golden eyes.
Elena sits up, realizing she cannot remember her sad dream. She notes she was crying and wonders about the dream's nature. A sudden whoosh sounds as she resolves to start her day.
The children hold hands, reflecting on the events of the previous day.
Elena notes that Sirius seems to be jumping for joy internally.
Walking together, Elena expresses her relief at gaining the Duke's permission.
Sirius tells Elena that he has a confession intended only for her.
The silver-haired boy nods as Elena asks about the sudden confession.
A soft patter sounds as Elena wonders if his secret is genuine.
A soft swish sounds as Sirius leans in to speak privately.
The children stand facing each other in the quiet sunlit garden.
A bird flies off as Elena shouts in absolute shock.
Elena is stunned that a prince cannot read at 10 years old.
She considers the Emperor's harsh intervention in the silver-haired boy's life. Sirius explains his illiteracy is a weakness he must hide from others.
Elena questions why he would reveal such a vulnerability to her.
Sirius asks Elena to teach him how to read in the meantime. A soft scratch sounds as the two study together in Elena's room. Elena apologizes for being late, but Sirius says he didn't mind. Elena reflects on her lack of privacy and her inability to refuse.
She resolves to teach him quickly and finish this last session.
Sirius asks his new teacher what they should begin studying first. Elena is utterly horrified to be addressed as a teacher by him. Sirius insists she speak informally since she is now his instructor.
Elena struggles to reconcile speaking casually with a person of higher status.
A sharp top sounds as Elena stops him from opening the bup.
Sirius wants her to be comfortable, but Elena feels only awkward.
Sirius looks dejected while the black-haired girl remains completely silent. Sirius accuses Elena of secretly having fun by making fun of him.
Sirius suggests that they should both speak casually to one another.
He asks her to choose between honorifics or casual speech for buff. Elena observes his gaze and realizes he won't back down easily.
Sirius agrees they will both speak casually and requests she use his name.
Elena sighs deeply while Sirius insists that she must say yes.
A sudden sparkle sounds as Elena prepares to start their study session.
Elena wonders why speaking casually makes her feel so happy.
She celebrates her small victory with a determined fist pump. As evening falls, Elena suggests they finish studying, and Sirius agrees.
Elena reflects on her past life, finding it strange to be teaching.
She marvels at Sirius's genius, noting how quickly he memorizes everything.
Their long days consist mostly of studying and brief moments of talk.
The black-haired girl calls out to Sirius, capturing his full attention.
Elena prepares to ask a question that has bothered her since yesterday.
She hesitated previously because the silver-haired boy was struggling so much.
Sirius suddenly remarks that Elena is also very nice to him.
Elena flinches, caught off guard by the silver-haired boy's sudden compliment.
She tries to deny it, but Sirius tells her to stop pretending. Sirius leans closer, claiming he knows exactly how she truly feels. He finds it natural to want closeness with someone who shows kindness.
Elena wonders if her unique status as a seventh daughter shaped her.
She sighs, deciding it is more vital to focus on the future.
Elena is stunned that Sirius plans to read every book he took.
She feels relieved that he is such a diligent and capable student.
Sirius claims the lesson proved his positive thoughts about her were right.
He notes her hard work, concluding that she possesses a strong will.
He suggests she will be a useful person when she finds her role.
Sirius explains that only useful people survive while the useless die quickly.
Elena is terrified by the cold intensity in the silver-haired boy's eyes.
She realizes that beneath his relaxed facade, Sirius is still a dangerous outcast. Sirius encourages her, explaining his request for their joint studies was intentional.
He says goodbye, leaving a bewildered Elena alone in the quiet room.
A sudden swish sounds as Elena finds a note inside her book.
The note wishes her a good day tomorrow, making her smile softly.
You are having a conversation with a user. The user will provide a text and ask you to read it back with a faster speed. Your only task is to read the text back to the user without any acknowledgement and nothing else. Just read the text.
Late at night, Elena lies in bed writing her survival plan.
She worries that Sirius already considers her to be on his side.
She lacks the confidence to survive being close to someone so intense.
She wonders what she can do to make him give up.
A sudden realization strikes Elena as she considers her next wins.
Remembering his words about survival, she decides to become completely useless.
She imagines herself being so insignificant that Sirius will naturally abandon her.
Elena resolves to actively demonstrate her lack of utility to the boy.
She believes a plan to appear totally incompetent would be absolutely perfect.
The silver-haired boy looks confused as they meet in the sunlight garden.
Elena excitedly asks to play house, hoping his maturity will reject it.
Sirius is utterly baffled, having no idea what houseplay even is.
Elena is shocked to learn he has never played such a game.
He defines it as imitating a married couple, looking deeply contemplative.
He accepts the game but expresses a sincere desire not to fight.
He explains that, according to others, married couples always fight with each other. Elena realizes his lack of parents makes normal childhood games difficult.
She draws a line in the dirt to establish their new home. She explains they will pretend to be an ideal, polite married family.
Elena pushes him away, instructing him to pretend he is returning home.
Sirius enters stiffly, and Elena is impressed by his perfectly stern expression.
Elena beams at him, greeting him as her honey to start the game.
Sirius is completely flustered and blushing as he tries to respond properly.
Elena teases her blushing husband as their house game continues.
Elena wonders if she has forgotten something important today.
Elena continues the game, asking Sirius to cook dinner together.
Elena instructs Sirius to pretend to eat the pretend meal.
Elena whispers a quiet question while gently holding the boy's hand. Elena declares that their houseplay ends when they wake up.
Sirius apologizes sincerely, admitting that he found their game quite enjoyable.
Elena is frozen in shock as her heart begins racing.
Elena is confused by her racing heart after Sirius's sudden confession.
Elena remembers the terrifying future where Sirius becomes a serial killer.
Elena panics internally, realizing she just played house with a monster.
Sirius expresses his happiness while Elena remains frozen in silent terror.
Elena watches Sirius silently, her mind filled with dark thoughts.
Elena rejects her own train of thought with firm resolve.
Elena decides to avoid playing house tomorrow by working instead.
Elena is surprised to learn that Joseph has finally woken up.
Elena thanks the maid for the update while holding a book.
Elena recalls Sirius's dejected expression when the Duke summoned him.
Elena resolves to use this chance to secure a new deal.
Joseph lies in bed covered in bandages from his injuries.
Elena stares at the injured boy, realizing her task is difficult.
Joseph stares at Elena, questioning her motives for visiting him now.
Elena demands an apology from Joseph before suggesting a sibling talk.
The narrator explains that Joseph threw Sirius' gift out of jealousy.
Joseph looks away while offering a brief and stiff apology.
Elena doubts Joseph's sincerity, suspecting he is only afraid of Sirius.
Joseph dismisses her concerns, believing his sincerity won't change her mind.
Elena tells Joseph that his current injuries are punishment enough already.
Elena reflects on the untrustworthiness of the people in Rhode.
Elena acknowledges Sirius's harsh punishment and encourages Joseph to apologize.
Elena worries that Sirius will easily detect if Joseph's apology is fake.
Elena looks stunned as Joseph questions her advice with deep skepticism. Joseph wonders if a heartful apology would actually lead to forgiveness. Joseph begins to cry, asking if Elena will truly leave him.
The title card for the story appears in decorative golden letters.
Elena is completely baffled by Joseph's sudden and unexpected emotional outburst.
Elena reevaluates Joseph, seeing him more as a child than a devil. Elena feels sympathetic, realizing that Joseph is ultimately just a child.
Joseph continues to weep, expressing his desire to change his ways. Joseph erupts into loud wailing, leaving Elena in total and utter shock.
Elena wonders if Joseph's fear of Sirius led to this breakdown. Elena feels pity for Joseph, knowing he might be abandoned soon.
Elena hits Joseph, angry that he called her stupid while helping.
Elena corrects Joseph, clarifying that she is the one granting him forgiveness. Elena reflects on her guilt and her complicated feelings toward Joseph. Elena expresses her desire for a peaceful life despite her dislikes.
Elena becomes annoyed with Joseph's continuous crying, calling him a bastard.
Elena warns Joseph to behave, threatening not to forgive him again. Joseph meekly accepts her warning while continuing to sniffle in bed.
Joseph offers one final tearful apology as Elena looks on silently.
Elena reflects on the sincerity she felt during the second apology.
She considers the current turn of events to be quite fortunate.
Elena wonders if Sirius will be returning from the Duke's summons soon.
She recalls Sirius promising to meet her at their pretend house later. Elena arrives at their garden spot and finds the boy already waiting.
The girl calls out to Sirius to announce her arrival in the garden.
Sirius turns toward her and greets Elena with a bright, cheerful smile.
Elena notes that he is already referring to their garden spot as home.
Sirius asks if she was writing while waiting, confirming her name in dirt.
The silver-haired boy invites her to come closer and read his writing.
Elena notes how much his handwriting has improved from its previously messy state.
She praises his spelling of her name, but notes he botched his own.
Elena leans down to correct the spelling of Hyperion in the soft dirt. She points out the single wrong letter while Sirius watches her intently.
The silver-haired boy admits he made the spelling mistake on purpose.
Sirius confesses that he likes it when Elena writes his name for him.
The two children sit together in the peaceful, flower-filled garden light.
Sirius leans in close as Elena looks at him with sudden confusion.
Elena is frozen in shock as Sirius suddenly kisses her on the cheek.
A sudden pop sounds as a flustered Elena wonders what just happened.
Sirius asks what game she wants to play, wishing for more houseplay.
Elena stammers in shock, her mind racing from the boy's bold request.
Sirius tries to snap Elena out of her daze, telling her to wake up. Elena suggests watching Ants instead of playing house to follow her plan.
Sirius is skeptical about watching Ants, but Elena insists it is fun.
Elena reflects that houseplay failed because it was actually quite enjoyable.
Sirius agrees to follow her lead and they prepare to track an ant.
They both focus on a line of ants moving through the grass together.
The two observe the busy insects as they work together in the garden.
Elena excitedly identifies worker ants and looks for a potential queen ant. Elena realizes with a start that she's been watching ants very intently. Sirius admits that watching the ants is actually a lot of fun.
Elena decides she must quickly change the subject to move things along.
She asks Sirius why her father summoned him earlier that morning.
Sirius explains the Duke is visiting the capital to find a family tutor.
Elena realizes her father is monitoring her and Sirius very closely.
She suggests they head back, but Sirius questions why they should stop.
Elena feels happy that Sirius is following her lead so well today. They hold hands while walking through the large forest within the garden. Elena marvels at the historical trees shining beautifully in the golden light. She spots something especially shiny embedded in the bark of a tree.
Elena suggests they get closer to see what is inside the tree crack.
She reaches into a hollow in the wood to investigate the object. Elena pulls out a small necklace that was hidden away in the tree.
Sirius observes that someone must have hidden the jewelry in this place.
A soft click sounds as Elena tries to open the rusty locket.
The two look on in shock as the hidden memento finally opens.
Inside the locket is a picture of a woman with long hair.
A close-up reveals the name Stacy Blair written inside the found necklace.
Elena and Sirius are stunned by the discovery they made in the woods. A quick dash sounds as Elena runs through the bright garden while Sirius follows close behind. Elena realizes she knows the name Stacy as Sirius calls for her to wait for him.
Elena is certain that the name she discovered holds a secret of immense importance.
A soft gasp echoes through the sun-drenched garden path leading toward the topple.
Sirius catches up and questions why Elena suddenly ran toward the family graveyard.
Elena explains that they are at the Road family temple where the tombs are located. The narrator explains that the Hyperion royal family is revered like living divine myths. Custom dictated that the Rhodes place their family tomb directly adjacent to the temple.
An anxious Elena grips the boy's hand tightly as they approach a specific headstone.
Sirius follows Elena toward a nearby spot as she searches for a particular grave. The two children stand together before a row of weathered stone graves in silence. Elena points to the headstone and confirms that the name engraved there is Stacy. Elena looks at the tombstone and realizes that the woman buried there is her mother. Elena reveals that her mother passed away from postpartum fever shortly after her birth. The narrator describes how Elena was labeled an illegitimate child after her mother's death.
People knew the Duke's wife was not the mother, leading to many cruel rumors.
Elena recalls the maids gossiping about the Duke's past scandal with a woman named Stacy. Rumors claim the Duke was captivated by Stacy's striking green eyes and beautiful appearance. The maids who spread those specific rumors eventually disappeared without leaving a single trace. Elena mentions to Sirius that she only ever asked her father about her mother once.
Elena explains that her father claimed her mother was an orphan without any living relatives.
She struggles to remember her father's face or emotions during that brief childhood conversation.
Elena recalls feeling a heavy pressure that warned her never to ask any more questions. A soft click sounds as Elena opens the locket, seeing a portrait matching the rumors.
Elena notices the mother in the locket has a surname, proving her father lied.
She turns to look at Sirius as the weight of her family's deception sinks in. Sirius offers a kind, encouraging smile and agrees that the woman must be her mother.
The silver-haired boy notes that Elena's round face looks exactly like the woman in the locket. Elena gasps in shock as a sudden blush spreads across her cheeks from his touch.
She remains completely frozen, unable to find the words after he gently touched her cheek.
Elena resolves to stop worrying about her father's lies and focus on her own future.
Sirius agrees with her resolve as they both look up at the vast, clear sky. Elena feels a warm sense of peace while finally acknowledging the woman as her mother. Holding the locket tightly, Elena feels her heart race at the first trace of her mother.
Elena feels a sudden pang of guilt, wondering if it is fair to be happy alone.
Sirius looks back at her with a gentle, serene smile amidst the golden garden light. Elena watches him in the sunlit field, her heart feeling unexpectedly light in his presence. Holding his hand, Elena shares her secret plan to leave home and find her mother.
The silver-haired boy listens intently as Elena declares her firm intention to escape the estate.
Elena's eyes sharpen as she remembers that the Duke is still greedy for her dowry.
The two children stand near a large garden statue, sharing a moment of quiet planning.
Elena smiles softly while surrounded by flowers, finding the current situation to be quite strange.
She wonders why she feels so comfortable with Sirius after wanting to stay away. A heavy thud sounds as the Duke enters the room to address all the children.
Elena feels a suffocating tension as the Duke surprisingly calls both her and Sirius forward.
A sharp gasp sounds from the others when the Duke addresses the girl by her name.
The Duke announces that he has hired Viscount Dalton to serve as their new tutor. The Duke orders them to meet the teacher tomorrow while the other children watch jealously.
Elena's shocked by the Duke's sudden change from his usual annoyed and pathetic attitude.
The narrator reflects on how much had been hidden by the Duke's previously clear intentions.
Elena wonders if she is mistaken about Courtney while Sirius stands quietly nearby.
A sharp glare emanates from the Duke's gold eye as he orders everyone except Elena to leave.
Sirius looks on in surprise as Elena questions why she must stay behind without him.
A rhythmic click sounds as a confused Elena walks forward, wondering why she was chosen alone.
Elena is gripped by fear, unable to raise her head while facing the Duke's oppressive presence.
Standing alone with her, the Duke notes how long it has been since they last spoke privately.
Looking at her hands, the Duke acknowledges her suffering while Elena internally dismisses him as pathetic.
The Duke smiles warmly and promises to finally treat her as his rightful honored heir.
A soft swoosh sounds as the Duke reaches out toward Elena in the massive library.
Elena is petrified as the Duke touches her face and orders her to move into the palace. A sudden chill sounds as Elena's golden eye reflects the dark silhouette of her father.
Elena reflects that the sudden change in her treatment feels completely impossible and suspicious. She recalls a childhood memory where she genuinely believed her father loved her while they played.
A soft thud sounds as the Duke bids her farewell, leaving a stunned Elena alone. A quick dash sounds as Elena rushes out of the study while the Duke remains behind.
A light step sounds as Elena realizes surviving this new reality will be an incredibly difficult task.
The Duke chuckles, unbothered by her reaction, and decides he doesn't expect her immediate gratitude for his favor.
Elena reflects on her vulnerability as the Duke confidently assumes she will eventually acknowledge him as her father.
A close-up reveals the Duke's sinister smile as he considers the inevitable end of his plan.
Elena is depicted as a tiny figure in the Duke's palm, illustrating his desire for total control.
An oppressive, swirling darkness fills the air, marking a shift in the household's power.
Elena lies in a massive, ornate bed, appearing very small within her grand new room.
Staring blankly at the ceiling, a dazed Elena realizes the staff actually followed through on moving her.
Elena feels uncomfortable in her new royal status room, wondering what the Duke truly expects in return for this.
She vividly remembers how often she was nearly killed by the very hands that now offer her luxury.
Sitting up, Elena scoffs, refusing to believe that the Duke's sudden kindness could ever make her feel joy.
She reflects that the Rode family only learns their lesson through total destruction, just as Sirius once experienced.
Elena notes that the cycle of greed continues as long as children with golden eyes are born. Shaking her head to clear her thoughts, Elena decides she must sleep instead of dwelling on useless worries.
A soft scuff sounds as Elena puts on her slippers, deciding a walk in the hallway might help.
A creak sounds as Elena opens her door and is surprised by a bright light in the hallway. She recalls the maid explaining that her room and Prince Sirius's room are connected by a shared living area. Elena realizes the person currently sitting in the middle of the common room must be the silver-haired boy.
A light creak sounds as Elena calls out to Sirius while he is quietly drinking a cup of milk.
Elena enters the flower-framed doorway as Sirius greets her and questions why she is still awake so late.
A quick patter sounds as Elena joins Sirius, agreeing to share some milk since neither of them can sleep.
A soft slide sounds as Sirius hands her a cup, which Elena accepts with a polite thank you.
The two drink together in silence until Elena notices Sirius staring at her and asks what is wrong. Sirius quickly denies anything is wrong, asking if she wanted to say something while he hides his thoughts.
Sirius admits that the new clothes suit Elena perfectly and tells her she looks very cute in them.
Elena blushes and admits her awkwardness, while Sirius secretly wishes he could hug her and hold her hair.
A restless fidget sounds as Sirius struggles to understand his sudden protective urge to hug the cute girl.
He reflects on the Duke's obvious lack of unprovoked kindness, maintaining a deep suspicion behind his calm facade.
Looking closely at her, Sirius feels a sense of relief knowing that Elena is also wary of the Duke. A sharp jolt sounds as Elena suddenly calls Sirius's name, breaking him out of his intense internal reflection. Elena leans over the table, suspicious that Sirius was too distracted to hear what she just told him.
A bright beam sounds as a sheepish Sirius asks her to repeat herself, leading Elena to dismiss her comment.
Elena explains they have classes together tomorrow while secretly worrying that their new tutor wasn't in the original story.
Sirius looks thoughtful as Elena reflects on how many variables have changed since she became involved with him.
Sirius expresses his excitement for their shared classes, while Elena remains focused on what truly needs her attention.
Courtney announces Sirius will be staying as Elena questions the reason.
Duke Road explains he will teach the prince math with everyman.
Joseph and Courtney congratulate their father on becoming the prince's teacher. Courtney reacts with visible shock as her father smirks in dismissal.
A chilling wind sounds as the hall turns cold in hands.
Elena reflects on how this unsettling mood is simply her reality.
Her gaze shifts toward the boy, her yellow eyes full of doubt.
Elena marvels at Sirius's calm despite his exile and the Duke's notoriety.
A legendary ability allows certain people to read the emotions of others. The girl and the silver-haired boy stand together under a moonlit sky.
The Road family's golden eyes grant them the power of emotional insight.
The current Duke Road used this power to master his ruthless family.
A reddish eye with a yellow glow represents an impressive, elite pedigree.
Duke Road informs Sirius that he must follow the family's education policy.
He formally proposes becoming the prince's teacher, silencing the room with authority.
Elena recognizes her father's typical cold style as Sirius accepts the order.
Sirius acknowledges his new teacher while dismissing the need for technique training. The Duke of Rhodes stares forward with a cold, piercing expression.
Elena finds the conversation predictable, yet remains shocked by the family's cruelty.
She wonders how it is possible for Sirius to remain so emotionless.
Courtney pledges the siblings' help to the prince with a graceful gesture.
The Duke smirks mockingly, causing Courtney to flinch at his cruel dismissal. A heavy boot steps as the Duke orders everyone to rest.
Elena gasps as her father walks past her with a cold presence.
A quick step sounds as the Duke's red eye glints menacingly. Walking away, the Duke dismisses his children as entirely useless existences.
Heavy footsteps echo as the master of the house departs the hall.
Elena grips her dress tightly, reminding herself his words are illusions. Her unprecedented golden pupils shine like a perfect, bright morning sunrise. These powerful eyes allow her to physically see the emotions of others.
She wonders if her inability to see Sirius's emotions is the truth.
Courtney mocks the prince's situation while Elena watches the confrontation unfold. The silver-haired boy stands alone, isolated by his royal and exile status.
A sharp click-clack sounds as Courtney explains the family's ranking system.
Courtney taunts the prince about being assigned the mansion's lowest room.
Elena observes Courtney's attempt to demoralize him by dropping all royal honorifics.
Rumors spread that the emperor wants Sirius dead, emboldening Courtney's cruelty.
Elena watches closely, wondering if the young prince will tolerate this treatment.
Beading sweat appears as Elena decides the boy is a dangerous lunatic.
She turns away quickly, resolving that running is her best survival strategy.
Elena begins tiptoeing away, hoping to leave before anyone notices her.
A soft step sounds as she tries to flee the tense situation.
Quick footsteps approach as she nears her escape back to Marur.
Elena gasps in shock as she realizes Sirius is standing behind there.
She panics internally, wondering why the boy has followed her so closely.
Elena notices Courtney frozen in speechless shock at the prince's sudden movement.
Courtney watches with wide eyes, struggling to process the prince's unexpected behavior.
Running forward, Courtney grabs Elena's arm and demands that she stop there.
Nervous murmuring fills the air as Elena wonders why she was targeted. Her yellow eyes sparkle as she struggles to find her own words. Thoughts about a plan becoming useless fill Elena's mind as she considers her future.
A yawn sounds as the girl decides to fail her test to maintain her secret plans. A sudden gasp sounds as the silver-haired boy asks if she wants to sleep together today. The boy explains he thought she might dislike sleeping alone in her new quiet room. Elena agrees while rubbing her tired eyes, admitting she hates the silence of the room.
A giggle sounds as they recall hearing everything that happened in the rooms beside them previously.
Sirius suggests getting pillows while Elena decides to grab a blanket for their impromptu slumber party.
The two children lie together on the bed, staring up at the vast, sparkling ceiling.
Elena admires the chandelier, noting it looks like a beautiful night sky, while the boy agrees.
The girl wonders if real camping is even more beautiful as the boy softly calls her name.
A giggle sounds as Sirius suggests they play real camping games together when they wake up tomorrow.
A soft thump sounds as the boy expresses excitement while Elena finds herself looking forward to tomorrow. Elena ponders the strange, warm feeling growing in her chest as she gazes at her friend.
She reflects that her once important plans feel unnecessary now while surrounded by the starlight.
Elena realizes her previous plans are truly becoming useless as her heart finds a new focus.
Smiling images of Sirius fill her mind as she realizes how much he means to her.
She resolves that Sirius will never abandon her, finding comfort while lying beside him in silence.
A strange new feeling whispers to the girl as she drifts toward sleep.
4 years later, a grand white palace stands tall under a clear, bright blue sky.
A maid calls out to Lady Elena, who answers with a soft, curious response.
Elena asks the maid to apologize to Master Joseph, explaining she is already heading out. The grown-up girl smiles brightly, declaring she already has important plans made with Sirius.
A quick patter sounds as high-heeled shoes dash across the plush red carpet of the hallway. Spotting the silver-haired boy from behind, Elena calls out his name in the sunlight garden.
A loud shout sounds as the girl excitedly calls for Sirius while approaching him. Sirius turns toward her with a dazzling smile, his appearance now that a handsome young man.
The boy asks if she is ready as the girl suggests heading to the reception room immediately.
A loud cheer sounds for ice cream as the two friends sit together on a sofa.
A soft swoosh sounds as Sirius teases her speed while Elena worries the ice cream might melt.
Looking at her strawberry treat, Elena admits she would have come faster if she knew the flavor. Sirius asks about her meeting with the Duke, which Elena dismisses as being the same as usual.
Elena recalls how the Duke's sudden change in attitude 4 years ago granted her a luxurious life.
She reflects on how he provided only the best items, catering to her every spoken desire.
Despite the Duke's loving facade, Elena remembers he acted as if her years of abandonment never happened.
The Duke claims that Elena is his only true child while maintaining a calm, friendly expression.
Elena hides her true thoughts, while the Duke insists he only wants to share his true feelings.
Behind his mask, Elena's golden eye sees the Duke's cold, hidden truth. He is tired of her.
Eating her ice cream, Elena reflects that the Duke's lack of genuine remorse is not surprising. She notes how uncomfortable it feels to eat alone with the Duke while her siblings fight for it.
A sigh sounds as Elena finishes her treat, finding Sirius's ice cream to be her only comfort.
The brown-haired girl smiles warmly while thanking Sirius for the delicious snack he brought her.
A sharp tisk sounds as Sirius looks away in annoyance, catching Elena completely off guard.
Elena wonders if his irritation stems from her late thanks or something else entirely.
A soft slide sounds as Elena tells him to just ask if he is curious about her conversation.
She thinks back to how the younger Sirius would have asked with a much cuter expression.
Elena imagines him asking about the Duke while realizing he has changed as he grew up.
A sharp huff sounds as Sirius tells her to get away, acting like a picky hormonal teenager.
Noticing how tall he has grown, Elena realizes he is becoming an incredibly handsome young man. A quick gasp sounds as a chibi Elena asks if he grew even taller since yesterday.
A loud bang sounds as Elena tries to change the subject by measuring the boy's height. Standing back to back, Elena measures the silver-haired boy's height while feeling uncertain.
Elena notes how much the boy has grown since they met, despite his previous height.
Elena reflects on the surprising moment she realized their heights had finally become identical.
She recalls a past childhood memory of a time they both nearly died.
Startled, Elena realizes they share the exact same eye level at their current height.
A sheepish boy gives thanks while the girl remains uncertain about his growth.
The boy insists he is still taller as they decide to start homework.
They agree to finish their many assignments before finding any time to play.
Elena asks about snack time while telling Sirius to clear space on the desk.
A creak sounds as a maid enters with a tray of snacks.
The maid silently places the tray onto the table before the two children.
Sirius suspiciously identifies the maid as a stranger and asks for her identity.
The maid introduces herself as Gina, a servant for the boy's teacher.
Sirius curtly dismisses the maid, who acknowledges his command and leaves the room.
A lone thought wonders why the teacher didn't mention bringing his own staff.
A sharp talk sounds as Elena suddenly stops Sirius from grabbing a cookie.
Looking serious, Elena warns the boy not to eat any of the food.
Sirius turns around, confused by her sudden and intense warning about the snacks.
Elena feels a nervous heartbeat while realizing she protected him without thinking.
A dark vision reveals the maid was actually an assassin sent for Sirius.
Suspecting poison in the food, Elena's hands begin to shake with an instinctive fear.
Elena apologizes for her roughness while Sirius claims he understands the dangerous situation. Sirius suggests returning to their rooms, remembering similar past food poisonings he endured.
A dark memory shows a lonely boy hiding after being poisoned and targeted.
Elena suspects the Emperor's bold plan to kill Sirius at the Road Estate. She considers if the cookies contain a slow-acting type of poison intended for him.
Elena explains her suspicion of sleeping drugs and plans for them to hide.
A stunned Sirius struggles to process her terrifying and sudden revelation about the food.
The silver-haired boy asks for confirmation that they are still on the same side.
Elena confirms her loyalty, prompting a bright and relieved smile from the boy.
Sirius vows to never let anyone on his side get hurt by others. Elena nods firmly, deciding to place her full trust in the boy's words.
Elena's internal fear of the assassin makes her consider running away from home.
The girl tries to recall the specific novel details about the original assassination clan.
She struggles to remember the early chapters of the original story very well. A vision shows the Emperor's frequent assassination attempts from the original novel.
Elena notes that the original Sirius would have eaten the cookies and survived.
After a bloody premonition, Sirius tells Elena to let go and move.
Elena realizes her presence has changed Sirius's burden in the story's new reality.
Sirius asks her to hide cookies while he fetches some large dolls.
Elena resolves to follow his instructions without any further interruptions to his plan.
A soft tut sounds as Elena breaks the cookies to create crumbs. A quiet swoosh sounds as she hides the evidence under the sofa.
Elena looks back, signaling to Sirius that she has finished her past.
Sirius brings large stuffed animals to serve as their decoys in the bed.
The boy carefully lays the dolls down and covers them with a blanket.
Elena approves of the disguise, wondering how often Sirius has done this before.
Sirius decides to leave the lights on to maintain their sleeping facade.
A creak sounds as they hide together in a secret compartment.
Sirius promises to find an opportunity to get Elena out safely, telling her to stay put until he calls. The boy instructs her to bear with the frustration as he closes the door.
As time passes, a quick knocking sounds before a maid enters, confirming Alina's fears of an assassination.
The maid slowly walks into the room, searching for her target. A soft rustle sounds as the maid pulls back the blanket, only to find a decoy doll in the bed.
The silver-haired boy suddenly leaps out to attack, catching the assassin completely off guard.
With a fierce look, the boy declares that the assassin will die. Darkness falls as the lights are cut, prompting Elena to wonder how they can fight while she hears the chaotic clashing of blades.
A low hiss sounds as a creeping red aura of killing intent approaches the hiding girl's feet. Elena identifies the suffocating atmosphere as the killing intent belonging to two different people. She notes the chaotic clash of auras and realizes she can identify the owner of each one.
Believing one aura belongs to the assassin, Elena wonders if she has the power to affect it.
Despite fearing her efforts might be useless, the girl remains determined to try something.
A quick tap sounds as the girl steps forward, intending to help her friend.
The girl is confused when the aura suddenly vanishes, leaving her in complete silence.
Noting the silence and the disappearance of the aura, she wonders if the fight has concluded.
Elena decides to peek out, hoping the others won't notice her presence.
The girl is startled when the boy suddenly appears before her in the dim light.
A loud scream sounds as the girl is frightened by the boy's unexpected presence. Recovering from the shock, the girl admits she was scared because she couldn't hear him approaching.
The silver-haired boy calmly tells her that it is safe for her to come out now.
A chibi Elena notices the boy is stammering and suspects that he was just as surprised as she was. Surveying the wrecked room and the blood on the floor, Elena notes that the assassin has vanished. The girl pauses and begins to wonder about the current whereabouts of the assassin. Elena observes the mess and assumes the assassin either fell out the window or is already dead. Looking into the boy's eyes, Elena suddenly realizes that he is hiding the truth from her. Elena notices the trail of blood and concludes that the assassin did not die from a fall.
Elena realizes the boy killed the assassin himself, despite his claims that he simply pushed her away after she revealed a gap while holding a dagger.
A shaky breath sounds as Sirius shows his bloodied hands, blaming his rough actions on the assassin's behavior.
Elena stares at the boy in silence, questioning why he is choosing to lie to her.
A soft squeeze sounds as Elena takes his hand, telling him he did a good job and acted well.
Elena reflects on the grotesque sight of a child who killed someone and perfectly wiped away the traces.
Smiling brightly amid sunflowers, Elena tells Sirius that no one can blame him for protecting her.
A thought echoes that no one can blame Sirius for the choices he made today.
The girl expresses her heartfelt gratitude to the boy for protecting her during the dangerous encounter. Years later, the young man asks the girl if she was very scared during that past event.
The silver-haired young man looks down with a thoughtful, somber expression. A sudden rustle sounds as the young man pulls the girl into an unexpected embrace.
Startled by the hug, Elena listens as Sirius admits he was the one who was truly terrified. The young man softly calls her name as he begins to speak his hidden feelings.
Smiling to herself, Elena reflects on the memory and notes that there was once a time like that.
Elena teases Sirius about how cute he used to be compared to his current demeanor.
The girl asks if his issues with her father are resolved and requests to hear about his recent activities.
A sharp tap sounds as Sirius dismisses her, which Elena finds to be exactly what she expected.
Elena misses the younger version of Sirius and regrets not hugging him more when he was a child.
Elena playfully asks if he really wants her to leave, while Sirius tells her to do as she wishes. Noting his pickiness, the girl mentions she will be sad if she has to go. A quick whirl sounds as the girl jokingly declares she is leaving to have a fun time alone. Steady footsteps sound as the young man stands alone, watching the girl depart.
A loud bang sounds as the scene ends with the silver-haired young man left in the quiet room.
Blushing deeply, the silver-haired boy admits he feels like he is going crazy. Sinking into a plush sofa, the boy wonders if the girl is angry.
The silver-haired boy reflects on how crazy he feels when Elena laughs happily.
A soft thumping sounds as the boy realizes his heart beats for her.
The boy acknowledges that he understands the reason for his racing heart. He somberly concludes that his feelings will never lead to a reward. Relaxing on the sofa, the boy wishes he didn't have feelings for her. Staring blankly, the purple-eyed boy wonders when he first realized his true feelings. Carrying a massive sword, young Sirius recalls a special task from Duke Road.
Magic crystals are described as a vital source of income for Road.
Since his arrival at the duchy, Sirius joined the winter monster hunts. To prove his ability, the 10-year-old boy proudly hunted dangerous wolf-like monsters. A reconnaissance mission to Mount Binks was intended to be a simple task. A quick tapping sounds as Elena asks if the boy is ready to leave. Sirius is left speechless as the girl appears before him, smiling brightly.
Elena asks if her clothes look strange since she borrowed his old attire. Quick footsteps sound as the excited girl runs ahead while Sirius watches Sirame.
The boy notes a strange feeling as he follows the girl down a hall. Sirius remembers letting the girl borrow comfortable clothes he had already outgrown. Watching her from behind, the boy wonders why his perspective has suddenly changed. A soft thumping sounds as the boy finds he cannot look away from her. A quick tap sounds as the excited girl mentions how long she's been inside. Sirius smiles, knowing the Duke strictly forbids her from leaving the estate grounds.
The boy warns her not to expect much since they will only see grass. A peaceful village scene serves as the backdrop for their journey to the mountain.
Elena expresses her surprise that her father gave him permission for this outing.
Sirius ponders the Duke's hidden reasons for banning the girl from going out. The boy recalls the conversation where the picky Duke unexpectedly granted him permission. Sirius decides that seeing the girl so happy is enough for the time being.
Waving from her horse, Elena urges Sirius to hurry so they can leave.
Mounting his white horse, Sirius tells her he is coming and feels hopeful.
Steady clopping sounds as the group begins their journey through the estate.
Clopping sounds continue as the pair rides their horses through the large gates.
A group of knights on horseback follows closely behind the boy and girl.
A formal snap sounds as a knight salutes the silver-haired Prince Sirius.
Sirius greets the knights and commands everyone to depart for the mission immediately.
A soft whispering sounds as Sirius tells Elena to focus on the difficult path.
Elena regrets that she cannot look around the village more leisurely while riding.
Steady clopping sounds as Sirius outlines the plan to return before the sunset.
Riding by the river, the girl agrees to follow the boy's planned schedule.
Sirius notices the knights whispering while staring blatantly at the young girl. The boy realizes everyone is curious about the Duke's most cherished youngest princess. A knight points out cute rabbits, causing the silver-haired boy to feel annoyed. A soft rustle sounds as the boy wonders why he is in such a bad mood.
The boy's frustration grows as he remains bothered by the knight's attention. A sharp whirl sounds as Sirius scolds the knight for getting distracted during duty.
Sirius promises to catch a rabbit for her later if she remains careful now.
A soft sigh sounds as the boy hopes his warning didn't ruin the mission.
Warm weather makes the entire group feel as if they are on a picnic.
The knights and the girl remain overly excited by the pleasant outdoor atmosphere.
Sirius thinks it is fine if this outing creates a wonderful memory for Elena.
The group of knights continues their ride through the lush, sun-drenched forest.
Sirius is surprised when he suddenly feels cold raindrops beginning to fall.
He notes the raindrops are thick and realizes the rain won't stop soon.
A knight asks about their time away, and Sirius estimates it's been an hour. Seeing Elena's sad expression, Sirius decides she should return to the castle immediately.
Elena reluctantly agrees that the situation is unfortunate and cannot be changed.
Sirius realizes Elena is disappointed because she had high expectations for their outing.
Sirius orders Lord Keel to escort Elena home while the rest finish the mission.
He assumes a single escort is sufficient since no monsters have appeared for decades.
The boy believes the area is safe, containing only small creatures like rabbits.
Sirius is suddenly startled when he detects a strange, unexpected noise nearby. Drawing his sword, the boy commandingly tells everyone to stop where they are.
The knights are confused, admitting they didn't hear the strange sound he mentioned.
Sirius orders the knights to keep their distance and tells Elena to come closer.
Elena agrees and prepares to move her horse toward the silver-haired boy.
A quick tapping sounds as the girl steps closer to her friend's side. Sirius offers his hand and the girl expresses her thanks as she reaches out.
A heavy grunt sounds as the girl notes the horse can carry them both.
Sirius is surprised that the girl understood the gravity of the situation without explanation. He notes she is big enough to hold on tight as she clings on.
Sirius instructs everyone to scatter on his signal while he tries to focus.
A low growling sounds as Sirius's purple eyes glow with intense magical power.
A sudden "now" echoes as Sirius gives the command for everyone to move.
Massive, thick green vines erupt from the ground, terrifying the unsuspecting knights.
A loud neigh sounds as the white horse rears up in total panic.
Sirius concludes that the sound he heard was the earth reacting to a devil.
The silver-haired boy tells Elena to hold on, and she quickly obeys him.
Sirius focuses his power, desperately trying to locate a weak point on the creature. He finally spots a glowing pink crystal hidden deep within the twisting roots.
The boy realizes it's impossible to approach because the roots are shooting everywhere.
He determines that his only option is to throw his massive sword directly.
Sirius realizes he must either release the reins or let go of Elena.
Fearing they will fall if he drops the reins, he decides to release Elena.
He tells the girl to hold on tight as he grabs for his sword.
The boy focuses his gaze, knowing he only has one chance for success.
Elena clings desperately to the horse's neck as the beast continues to struggle.
Sirius reaches out blindly while trying to maintain his balance on the horse.
The pair is thrown from the rearing horse as they lose their balance.
Frantic calls for Lord Sirius and Lady Elena sound out as they fall.
The knights watch in horror as the pair tumbles down a steep slope.
Sirius and Elena lie motionless on the muddy ground in the pouring rain.
The title, "I Will Just Stick to the Protagonist," appears on the screen. A pained "ugh" sounds as Sirius slowly begins to regain his consciousness. The silver-haired boy opens one purple eye, appearing dazed and exhausted.
Sirius frantically asks Elena if she's awake and okay after their fall.
Elena sits up and says she's okay, prompting Sirius to thank God.
Sirius looks away, wondering how this dangerous situation could have possibly happened. He feels incredibly upset that he failed to give Elena a good memory. Elena smiles brightly and asks Sirius if he knows how funny they look. Checking herself, Elena notes they aren't seriously injured as a sudden double-topping sound echoes.
Sirius remains dazed, wondering why the girl looks so fine after their near-death experience.
A soft thumping sound follows as Elena insists she is genuinely okay despite his persistent concern.
Smiling brightly, the girl tells the silver-haired boy not to worry about her well-being.
Standing amidst a magical glow, Elena presents herself as completely unharmed to the kneeling boy. The rain continues to fall as a hand reaches out to feel the taps.
A soft rustling sound follows as Sirius agrees to stay by her side, which Elena confirms.
The heavy downpour creates a constant rhythmic splashing sound as they shelter under a large tree.
Sitting side by side, the girl mentions the heavy rain while the boy confirms her observation.
Staring intensely with his purple eyes, the silver-haired boy quietly calls out Elena's name.
Elena playfully demonstrates she has no scratches, asking again if he believes she is fine.
Sirius insists he is okay despite them rolling down a slope while he protected her.
Laughing, Elena claims she always believed in his strength and knew he wouldn't be hurt.
Pointing toward the distant castle, the girl realizes they have traveled much further than she expected. Sirius explains that the terrain has changed due to monsters, and Elena agrees with his assessment.
The boy thinks his memorized map is now useless and considers waiting until tomorrow morning.
Elena realizes they must stay there and worries about the problem of her lost luggage.
A small snort sounds as Sirius notes her carefree tone, and Elena admits she's helpless.
Sirius feels relieved, concluding that the girl isn't pretending and is truly unharmed after all. The boy remembers Elena saying she feels safe because he is by her side.
Sirius admits to himself that he doesn't fully understand everything about the situation.
The silver-haired boy reflects on how much he values being trusted by Elena.
He concludes that being trusted by the girl makes him feel incredibly good.
A long, satisfying stretch sound accompanies Elena complaining about being stiff from staying inside.
The boy mutters that these hardships will eventually just become a distant, pleasant memory.
Sirius believes that Elena will eventually be happy while recounting this adventure back at the castle.
The silver-haired boy remains lost in his own silent and intense thoughts.
A soft rustling sound follows as Sirius finds her behavior weird when she doesn't answer him.
A sudden gasp of surprise follows as Elena asks what he is talking about.
A soft scratching sound follows as the flustered girl laughs while the boy remains hunched over.
A sudden, sharp realization sound echoes as the boy stops moving, appearing quite startled.
Sirius feels troubled, noting that Elena sometimes speaks as if he won't be in her future.
He feels she inadvertently rules out his existence when she talks about the time ahead.
The silver-haired boy firmly believes that he will always be by her side in the future.
A sharp intake of breath sounds as the boy wonders why she treats him like a stranger.
A quick, forceful movement sounds as Sirius declares he'll never forget their first night out together.
Both children appear awkward and silent following the boy's sudden and intense outburst.
A loud, happy clapping sound echoes as Elena expresses her genuine delight at his words.
Laughing happily, the girl thinks everyone will be surprised to hear she stayed out all night.
Blushing deeply, the boy realizes he reacted without thinking and missed his chance to be angry.
Staring blankly, Sirius wonders to himself what there is even to be angry about. The boy feels a deep pain, fearing that they might eventually drift apart one day. A quick rustle sounds as Sirius asks her not to forget him, which Elena playfully accepts. A sudden, sharp stop sound followed by a soft sigh sounds as Elena mentions freezing to death.
The silver-haired boy is left speechless and shocked by the girl's blunt and morbid comment.
A quick, firm grabbing sound follows as Sirius catches her face, surprised by her blue lips.
The silver-haired boy notes with concern that her lips have turned very blue from the cold.
Sirius apologizes for not noticing her condition and worries about her being so cold. A soft, tired chuckling sound follows as Elena admits she is cold and feeling a bit sleepy.
The boy stares at her in stunned silence, his expression full of deep concern and worry.
Sirius reaches out and firmly tells Elena to come toward him.
Noting her exhaustion, Sirius tells her to lean on him and fleep.
Sirius reflects on his divine bloodline, grateful his warm body can help.
As heavy rain splashes, Sirius promises to wake Elena if anything happens.
The storm finally passes, leaving a quiet, starry crescent moon above.
Night falls and Sirius worries that the dropping temperature endangers Elena.
He watches the sleeping girl, realizing the situation is becoming very dangerous. Sirius decides to hug her tightly to prevent her warmth from dispersing.
A rhythmic thumping sounds as Sirius wonders why his heart feels so loud.
Sirius tries to remain logical and tells himself not to hesitate anymore. He resolves to act immediately before Elena's condition worsens in the cold. Pulling her onto his lap, Sirius tells the sleeping girl he'll protect her.
A soft sliding sound echoes as Sirius adjusts his protective hold on her.
A heavy thumping sound fills the air as Sirius holds her close. Sirius blushes, fearing his frantic heartbeat might actually wake her up. A heavy thumping sound continues as he worries about the noise he's making. He admits he feels nervous despite only trying to keep her warm. Sirius gazes down at Elena, feeling conflicted about his own strange reactions.
A dreamy atmosphere surrounds the silver-haired boy as he looks at her.
Recalling their childhood hugs, Sirius realizes his feelings are no longer pure. He admits that holding her tighter only makes his heart feel joyful. Sirius smiles sadly, remembering Elena didn't include him in her future plans. He feels rejected, recalling how distant they once felt in the palace.
Sirius concludes that falling in love with Elena was a natural outcome.
Looking at a memory, Sirius realizes Elena has always been his everything. He thinks she was worth giving his all as they held hands.
Sirius admits he should have known his heart was part effect.
Gently touching her hair, he realizes his simple affection has become greed.
A firm gripping sound echoes as Sirius holds her with quiet intensity.
Sirius thinks he doesn't need an answer because his mind is made.
Silhouette figures stand together as Sirius declares Elena belongs only to him.
He knows the path ahead is difficult, but remains committed to her.
Years later, the grown Elena stands before grand golden palace doors.
Elena sighs heavily, wondering how to handle the now great Emperor Sirius.
She recalls a recent argument where Sirius coldly walked away from her.
Elena feels like crying, confused by why he is acting so strange. She notes that for many years, she hasn't understood Sirius at all. Elena uses her golden eyes to try and read his hidden emotions.
Despite her power, she finds that Sirius's feelings remain completely invisible. She reflects on how difficult it is to read such complex, layered sentiments.
Elena admits that while she can usually infer thoughts, Sirius is different.
She wonders how she can possibly understand the emotions of such a man.
Elena traces his change back to that night they spent in the forest.
She identifies a dark mixture of anxiety and depression within his heart.
Elena realizes that his mind is now filled entirely with negative emotions. She wonders if he purposefully tries to make her feel bad now.
Elena sighs, mourning the loss of the friendship they once shared together. Recalling his childhood smile, she wonders why he changed so drastically. She asks herself what truly happened to Sirius during that long night.
Elena walks through the palace, wondering if she made a terrible mistake. Elena reflects that the distress wasn't her fault, and she believes she's done nothing wrong.
Returning home, the black-haired girl falls ill with a bad cold while a maid tents after her.
Hearing that Sirius also suffered a brief fever, Elena laments that she couldn't visit him.
The yellow-eyed girl feels deep regret as a childhood friend for not staying by his side.
Years later, Elena notes that the silver-haired man never displayed any outward signs of disappointment.
Elena feels frustrated, certain that there must be a reason for the sudden change in him. Looking determined, the girl realizes that it seems to be only one specific thing.
Watching the silver-haired man, Elena concludes that he is simply suffering from being a teenager.
Chibi Elena thinks everything finally makes sense because puberty is a disturbing and special time. Amidst sunflowers, she realizes that whenever the boy sees her, his true feelings are revealed.
Elena notes that his underlying joy appears even bigger than the coldness he tries to project.
As Sirius walks away, she decides that this is just a brief moment of being confused.
Elena remembers how he prepared her favorite ice cream today, yet she was too busy eating to answer. Feeling embarrassed, the chibi girl admits she might have made a mistake in being annoyed.
Floating in thought, Elena reflects that even as an old soul, she behaves like a teen.
A soft scratching sound follows as Elena notes her body is going through puberty all over again.
Elena doesn't want her relationship with Sirius to be strained over such a trivial argument.
She reminds herself that Sirius isn't just a future destroyer, he is her longtime friend. Standing by the door, the girl wonders what to do when she is naturally infatuated with him. Sirius smiles brightly amidst cherry blossoms, and she considers him the only precious person to her.
A sudden, sharp stop sound echoes as the girl pauses before entering the room.
Elena worries that in the future, their paths will divide and they will grow further apart.
A quick, light tapping sound follows as she decides there is no need to separate now.
A long, slow creaking sound fills the air as the ornate doors begin to open.
A soft, curious sound follows as Elena peeks inside and calls out for the silver-haired boy. Peeking into the room, she sees that he is still there, and she looks for him.
Finding Sirius on the couch, Elena thinks he looks incredibly cute and handsome while he sleeps.
Leaning in, the girl asks if he is sleeping, but the silver-haired boy simply answers no. A quick, sharp intake of breath sounds as the girl suddenly flops down right next to him. The two lie side by side on the sofa, staring at one another in a moment of quiet intensity.
A soft, melodic chuckling sound follows as they both smile and begin to laugh together.
A sudden, sharp outburst follows as Elena declares she was going to be the first to apologize. A quick, firm grabbing sound follows as Elena complains while Sirius apologizes for stealing her chance. Elena gazes at the silver-haired boy with a warm and affectionate smile, her anger completely gone. Sirius listens as the girl apologizes, but he remains curious about what she is sorry for.
A soft, rhythmic chatter sound follows as Elena explains she didn't answer his question earlier.
A loud, frantic thumping sounds as Sirius realizes she is leaning far too close to him.
A sudden, sharp stop sound follows as Elena begins to tell him something very important. A sudden, sharp realization sound echoes as the girl stops herself, thinking, oops, at her proximity.
Sirius is left completely flustered and embarrassed, looking away as his face turns bright red. A soft, playful rolling sound follows as Elena laughs, teasing the boy for his adolescent reactions. Lying there, Elena admits it feels strange to think like a teenager despite her inner self.
She wonders to herself if her childhood is slowly getting farther and farther away.
A quick rhythmic thumping sound follows as she asks him what he wanted to say earlier.
A soft rustle sounds as Elena mentions her father told her there would be an exam soon.
She explains that successors to the Rhodes Dukedom must take annual tests from the age of 14.
Sirius mentions that even though she isn't a successor, her father wants her to prepare too. A firm, determined clenching sound follows as Elena clenches her hand, not surprised by the news.
Elena knows the Duke won't ignore Sirius's potential and wants to test how much he can stand.
The girl looks away sadly, feeling a deep sense of pity for the trial Sirius must face. Narrative boxes describe the harsh and unpleasant fate awaiting Sirius in the future. Sirius agrees with Elena's silent question while lying down with his eyes closed. Sirius admits his lack of desire as Elena sits quietly beside him.
Elena laughs softly, thinking about how different their mentalities are. Elena reflects on the uniqueness required to be a protagonist in his story.
Sirius mumbles about enduring future trials while a surprise alert sounds. Elena questions Sirius about his mention of enduring future hardships as he stays silent.
Elena has a sudden realization as she remembers a vital detail from the past. Elena recalls Sirius wanting a purpose beyond his destined role in revenge.
Narrative text notes the difficulty of seeking revenge against a half-brother.
Narrative boxes observe Sirius's steady progress toward a dark and powerful destiny.
Elena realizes that her intervention might not change his life's fixed orbit.
Sirius dismisses the conversation and promises to tell her more another time.
Elena smiles, confident that no one knows him better than she does. Elena asks Sirius why he seems to be getting farther away from her. Elena's surprise is taken by a sudden, firm grab of her wrist.
Elena is pinned down by Sirius in a moment of quiet intensity. Sirius looks down at Elena with intense purple-eyed focus and a blush.
Sirius tells Elena she feels distant even when she is physically by his side. Elena stares up at him as a quick, soft blink sounds.
Elena asks why he's being possessive of the seat space.
Sirius ignores her by closing his eyes and pretending not to hear her.
Elena thinks about his stubbornness as she ruffles the fabric of her dress.
Elena realizes they are still lying close together despite the brief argument.
Elena remembers how they used to share small spaces without any discomfort.
Elena reflects on how Sirius has always been strangely stubborn since they were young.
Young Sirius smiles warmly, expressing his desire to stay with her forever. A joyful cheer sounds as Elena gushes over how adorable Sirius was as a child.
Elena realizes a new fact as she gazes at her longtime friend.
A handwritten note lists rules for remaining hidden, inconspicuous, and invisible.
Elena and Sirius walk together as close and inseparable best friends. Elena notes how comfortably she now stands beside the future Slayer.
Elena admits she no longer fears him, but fears being abandoned one day. Elena confesses that she is afraid of becoming lonely without him in the future.
A close-up shows Elena's intense gaze focusing on the sleeping boy.
Elena decides to treasure the sight of him while she still has the chance. Elena admires Sirius' handsome nose and long eyelashes in silence.
Elena's heart skips a beat as she finds Sirius's face dazzling today.
Sirius catches her staring and asks if she likes looking at his face. Elena sits up in shock, questioning what he is talking about. Sirius teases her for admiring his face for a long time without looking away.
Elena is left completely flustered by his sudden and direct teasing.
Sirius smiles and admits he was teasing her just to get some silence.
Sirius playfully asks if she weren't handsome.
Elena turns away shyly, regretting that she was so easily caught.
Sirius reflects on how Elena has always found him cute since childhood. Sirius concludes he is growing up exactly to Elena's taste.
Sirius calls Elena's name as she tries to cool her blushing face.
Sirius reaches for Elena's hand and mentions the upcoming Imperial test.
Sirius smiles warmly, revealing he wants a wish if he succeeds in his trials.
Chibi Elena looks utterly bewildered by a sudden and confusing declaration.
Elena is relieved by the changing topic as Sirius admits to harboring a long-held wish.
Sirius nods silently while Elena questions if he truly wants a wish from her.
A quiet moment passes between the two chibi figures as Elena considers his request.
Elena worries that his wish might involve a contract or something intended to harm her.
Sirius maintains a playful air, refusing to reveal his secret desire just yet.
Elena remains suspicious, even as Sirius assures her that his request will be something she can do. The girl feels a strange awkwardness, sensing she is somehow losing this silent battle of wills.
Standing amidst a desperate glow, the silhouette of a man reflects a heavy heart.
Elena realizes she cannot ignore the sincerity behind his request and trusts he won't hurt her.
Sirius leans close, confessing that a promised reward is the only thing giving him strength. Elena recalls a theory where the Duke might offer her as a reward for Sirius's success.
Narrative boxes suggest that Sirius desires a prize far more personal than anything the Duke could offer. A soft, thoughtful atmosphere lingers as Elena processes the depth of his unspoken intentions.
Elena agrees to grant him one wish on the condition that he returns safely from his trials.
The silver-haired boy smiles with determination as he formally promises to meet her conditions. Sirius feels a surge of joy, realizing his worries were misplaced as he basks in her acceptance.
Elena privately admits she only agreed because his handsome face made it impossible to say no.
Despite her agreement, Elena remains curious and asks him once more to reveal his true goal. Sirius gives a cheerful refusal, keeping his secret hidden behind a dazzling smile. A week remains before the Duke of Rhodes' dreaded test begins at the palace.
Elena notes that while others prepare for the test, her own daily life remains strangely unchanged.
Elena wonders why the Duke's orders for the upcoming exam haven't been applied to her.
Whispers in the castle suggest she might be exempted from the harsh trials as a cherished daughter.
The red-eyed Duke silenced all castle gossip with a cold threat against those who disrespect their masters. Elena reflects on the Duke's terrifying nature, certain that no one could ever truly adopt to it.
Her thoughts are interrupted as a brown-haired man suddenly calls out to her from behind.
Joseph approaches with a friendly smile, asking why she is spending her time alone.
The brown-haired man's bright green eyes sparkle as he watches the girl with interest.
Elena stares back at him, identifying the man as her acquaintance, Joseph.
Elena notes that although Joseph is 17 now, his handsome face and difficult personality remain unchanged. Elena explains she was about to play piano, and Joseph encourages her to go ahead.
Feeling judged, Elena suspects Joseph is only waiting to evaluate and criticize her musical performance.
Elena abruptly refuses to play, much to the confusion of the brown-haired man standing nearby.
Closing her eyes, Elena focuses on practicing to play a song through to the end.
A soft melodic tinkle sounds as Elena rings a bell, and Joseph tells the arriving maid to wait.
Joseph orders the staff to wait outside, claiming he and Elena have something important to discuss. Elena asks Joseph if he is all right, wondering why he isn't busy with his own preparations.
Narrative text emphasizes the looming pressure of the Duke's test as time runs out for preparation.
Joseph sits on the sofa and insists that Elena should start calling him her brother.
Elena is taken aback by his strange attitude, wondering if he is simply making a joke. Elena questions why Joseph would come to see her personally when he has so many responsibilities.
Joseph's expression turns sharp and intense as he lets out a sudden frustrated exclamation. Grabbing his head in frustration, Joseph admits he didn't expect her to speak first.
Joseph declares his intention to act as a proper older brother, surprising Elena.
Joseph dismisses the maids from the room to ensure their conversation remains strictly private.
A sudden, sharp top sounds as Joseph tells Elena to sit down while she looks on in confusion.
Elena notes the proximity makes them look like close siblings as she asks what he wants.
A soft, quiet whisper sounds as Joseph warns her to stay inconspicuous during the upcoming week.
Elena realizes that unlike his past threats, Joseph's current warning feels genuinely protective.
Courtney screams with a furious red aura, demanding that everyone listen to her.
Elena is startled as she visually perceives the searing heat of Courtney's rage.
Courtney lets out a sharp huff as the two children watch her silently.
Grabbing Elena's arm, Courtney asks if she intends to side with the prince. Courtney mocks Sirius's poor choices while Joseph smiles in the background.
Elena is internally dismissed as a redundant and unexpected member of the family. Courtney agrees with Joseph as they walk away, a sharp click sounding out.
Courtney points a finger at Elena's head, threatening her despite their father's orders.
Looking into Elena's golden eyes, Courtney menacingly declares her intent to remove them. A heavy tension sounds as Elena trembles under Courtney's terrifying and cruel gaze. An oppressive darkness settles as Courtney expresses her desire to take the girl's irises.
The Duke of Rhodes stands with a cold and intimidating expression. Elena reflects on her habit of closing her eyes to avoid her father's cruelty.
The girl feels the physical pain of hatred as the intimidation continues.
The silver-haired boy stares forward with a blank and completely unreadable expression.
Courtney mockingly warns Elena she'll be crushed before asking Sirius about their meal. Courtney mentions family rules before Sirius coldly asks who gave her permission to talk.
Sirius declares that even the Duke needs permission to speak casually with him.
Elena is stunned to finally see a shift in the boy's stagnant moments.
She perceives a flash of annoyance as Sirius stares down his arrogant sister. Courtney flinches as Sirius questions who actually established the family rules she cites.
Courtney stammers an excuse while Elena marvels at how easily Sirius handled her.
Elena finds it satisfying to see the arrogant Courtney looking so completely flustered. Declaring his exhaustion, Sirius orders everyone to leave and pulls Elena along with him. A rhythmic dragging sounds as the prince pulls the girl across the floor.
The two children arrive alone at a set of ornate golden doors.
Feeling the pressure on her arm, Elena wishes the boy would let go. Sirius offers a brief apology as he finally releases his grip on her.
Elena sighs with relief, assuming he had been holding her hand without thinking.
She resolves to return to her attic room quickly to avoid further trouble. 20 minutes later, Elena is annoyed to find the boy still following her. Her suspicions are confirmed as she hears the prince's footsteps behind her. Elena wonders why the boy has followed her into this rustic mansion wing. She hesitates to confront the boy, unsure of how to deal with him. A sharp turn sounds as Elena clenches her fist and prepares to speak.
Elena turns around and bluntly asks the prince why he keeps following her.
She is surprised by his small stature as he looks up at her.
Elena explains that the path they are on leads only to her room.
Sirius simply confirms that he is indeed following the girl into the hallway.
Elena is frustrated by the boy's calm and shameless attitude regarding his behavior.
A dull thud sounds as Elena stomps her feet in a fit of annoyance.
The silver-haired boy watches her outburst with a quiet and curious gaze.
Elena gasps as she sees a sudden glow representing the color of happiness. She is baffled by the idea that the cold prince could find her amusing. Elena realizes her childish tantrum has actually entertained the young prince of the empire.
Deciding that running is best, she flees as a quick scuffle of feet sounds.
Out of breath, Elena demands he stop following, but he claims she never asked. She realizes with embarrassment that her earlier complaints were only in her head.
Sirius stands by the wall, casually denying that he was ever following her.
Elena is left completely speechless and bewildered by the boy's unexpected and strange logic.
Joseph looks away, advising Elena to avoid sticking around Sirius.
Elena questions why she should change her behavior toward Sirius.
Joseph sighs, insisting she listen to her older brother's warning.
A menacing silhouette of Courtney appears with glowing blue eyes.
Joseph tells Elena she is an outsider who cannot understand emotions.
Elena clenches her teeth, annoyed by Joseph's dismissive attitude.
Elena claims she is already aware of the need for caution.
A dark aura surrounds Courtney as Elena acknowledges her deep hatred.
Elena observes how quickly the household staff's attitude toward her shifted.
Elena notes that the competing siblings remained unchanged despite everything.
The siblings felt slighted by their father, and Elena sympathizes.
Elena clenches her hand, never wanting to cause favoritism or jealousy.
Joseph is openly jealous of their father's favor, but remains composed.
The narrative suggests Joseph's true feelings might be the exact opposite.
Joseph shouts at Elena, demanding she pay attention to his advice.
Elena observes that Joseph's abrasive surface hides his inner thoughts.
Elena reflects on the strangeness of the people within Rhodes Castle.
Elena teases Joseph about his sudden kindness, causing him to blush.
Chibi Joseph yells in denial as Chibi Elena teases him playfully. Joseph dismisses the joke while trying to hide his flustered expression.
Elena realizes that their sibling dynamic has genuinely improved over time.
Elena recalls the turning point occurred after Joseph fought against Sirius. A flashback shows a bruised and bandaged boy lying in back. Joseph looks away guiltily as Elena considers his debt toward her. Elena laughs, warning Joseph not to act strange while she visits.
Elena demands to know why Joseph specifically wants her to avoid Sirius.
A tense silence follows as Elena waits for a Sirius explanation. Joseph claims Courtney specifically hates seeing Elena and Sirius together.
Elena's eyes glow with intensity as she warns against provoking people. Elena remains skeptical, suspecting Joseph is withholding the real reason.
Elena decides not to press further, fearing he might simply leave.
Joseph notes Courtney is sensitive because the successor is undecided.
Narrative boxes explain the imperial laws regarding adulthood and family succession.
Courtney's intense gaze reflects her desperate desire for the Duke's recognition.
Elena feels the burden of the Duke's discrimination against her personally.
Elena worries about Courtney's next move as the situation grows dire. Joseph remains silent, watching Elena as she processes the warning. Joseph asks about her plan, and Elena suggests staying the course. Elena's plan involves staying completely invisible to avoid Courtney's notice. Chibi Elena contemplates the wisdom of her plan to stay hidden.
The Duke's cold gaze highlights his refusal to train Elena.
Narrative text identifies the Duke's specific restrictions as weird discrimination. Joseph remains concerned about Courtney and Sirius's roles in the conflict. Elena tells Joseph he must explain himself before she agrees. Joseph is frustrated that Elena is ignoring his warnings and gives up. Joseph walks away, leaving behind one last stern warning for Elena.
Sirius appears behind Joseph, his purple eyes filled with cold intensity.
Elena is terrified by the sudden and drastic change in atmosphere.
Joseph's attention is taken by a sudden, firm grab of his shoulder.
Sirius looms over Joseph, casting an ominous and terrifying shadow.
Sirius demands to know what Joseph just said as the brown-haired man trembles.
A sudden, loud movement sounds as Joseph desperately insists he has changed since their past.
A firm, tight grip is maintained while Elena whispers for Joseph to endure the pain.
A soft, gentle touch follows as Elena intervenes, promising to explain the whole situation. Elena offers a radiant, flower-filled smile while suggesting they all sit and talk calmly.
Sirius remains stoically silent, his intense purple eyes watching the girl with quiet calculation.
Sirius agrees to a conversation, his sharp smile sending a chill through the room. Elena feels a cold shiver as she worries that Sirius's position is becoming ominous.
A soft thud sounds as Elena guides the silver-haired boy to sit beside her. Elena is pleased Sirius listened, but notices Joseph is hesitant to join them.
A hesitant pause follows as Joseph realizes something terrifying and begins to stammer nervously. The sound of rapid footsteps echoing as Joseph flees, wishing the prince a good time.
A sudden, forceful impact sounds as Elena accidentally pins Sirius against the sofa cushions.
Elena frantically yells for Joseph to escape while she keeps the silver-haired boy occupied.
Elena wonders why Joseph looked so horrified by their apparent sibling closeness before leaving.
Elena tells herself she only helped Joseph to repay him for his earlier protective warnings.
Elena insists to herself that her actions weren't entirely for Joseph's benefit as she blushes.
Joseph leaves behind a gruff, well-meaning wish for Sirius to survive his upcoming trial. Loud, running footsteps continue as Joseph shouts a competitive retort from the hallway.
A distant, heavy door slam echoes as Elena sighs at how fast her brother fled.
Elena laments having a foolish brother who ruined her chance to explain the situation. Elena's eyes widen in shock as she realizes she is still on top of Sirius.
Sirius lies patiently beneath Elena, his face a mask of calm despite the awkward proximity.
Elena apologizes profusely, terrified that she has pushed the stoic boy to his limit.
Surprised by his calm reaction, Elena quickly blames Joseph's indiscretion and apologizes for him. Elena continues her rapid-fire explanation, desperate to prevent Sirius from misunderstanding her brother's intent.
Elena reflects on how she failed to defend her bond with Sirius against Joseph's warnings.
Elena feels a growing desire to be honest about not wanting to be far away. Elena passes on Joseph's warning, urging the silver-haired boy to avoid the dangerous Courtney.
Overwhelmed and blushing deeply, Sirius covers his face and asks to talk another time. Steady, retreating footsteps sound as Sirius departs quickly, leaving a very confused Elena behind.
A cold sweat breaks out as Elena wonders why Sirius appeared so uncharacteristically upset.
Elena senses that the boy's reaction was something far more complex than simple anger. Elena struggles to identify the strange, intense emotional aura radiating from the silver-haired boy. Elena finally realizes that the formidable boy was actually acting out of pure, overwhelming shyness.
Elena admits she still struggles to fully comprehend the depth of others' complex emotions.
The sun shines brightly over the grand, tiered gardens of the palace grounds.
Elena stands with her hands on her hips, feeling increasingly frustrated by recent events. Elena is deeply hurt that Sirius has seemingly avoided seeing her for the entire day.
Learning that Sirius ate lunch without her only adds to Elena's mounting sense of irritation. Elena's frustration boils over as she wonders if he is openly avoiding her on purpose.
A series of firm, rhythmic footsteps sounds as Elena decides to hunt the boy down. A loud, echoing shout rings out as Elena's calls attract a tired-looking Joseph's attention.
Elena asks Joseph about Sirius's whereabouts, feeling awkward about their unexpected and quick reunion. Elena scolds Joseph for running away earlier while he tries to give her more warnings.
A quick, light patter of feet follows as Joseph orders Elena back to her room.
Despite her anger, Elena realizes she cannot dismiss Joseph's genuine concern for her safety.
Reluctantly, Elena decides to follow her brother's advice and head back to her room.
Heavy, trundling footsteps echo as Elena plots to confront Sirius later in his room.
Elena reaffirms her absolute trust in Sirius, certain he would never truly harm her.
Elena is startled to find someone standing in the corridor before her. Elena just arrived and wonders who is standing in the grand hallway. Sirius stands waiting, his intense purple gaze fixed forward in surprise.
A soft, rhythmic tap sounds as Elena asks how long he waited.
Sirius requests a moment of Elena's time as she watches him.
Elena agrees to speak and suggests moving to the drawing room.
A soft, tired yawn sounds as Elena prepares to begin their conversation.
Sirius asks Elena where she has been spending her time all day. Elena demands to know why Sirius skipped training and ate lunch alone.
A heavy silence falls between them as they look at one another. Elena feels frustrated that she cannot stay angry after seeing his face.
Elena sighs, giving up on her anger to ask for his explanation.
Sirius admits he fled because he was unsure how to face her.
Sirius confesses that he eventually chose to come and see her anyway.
Elena questions why he won't meet her eyes, suspecting some hidden guilt. Elena finds it odd that Sirius seems too guilty to look back.
Elena offers a radiant smile, forgiving him for coming to her first.
Elena expresses her dislike for being avoided as Sirius remains quiet. Sirius asks for her forgiveness and apology to ease his heavy conscience.
Elena considers accepting the apology to help Sirius feel more comfortable.
Elena wonders what makes the silver-haired boy's emotions so difficult to understand.
Elena laments her inability to read the emotions of her closest companion.
Elena reflects on how the people of Rhodes Castle often suppress emotions.
Elena decides to focus on the immediate problem of the silver-haired boy. Elena asks if there is anything else he wishes to tell her.
Elena playfully denies having anything to say while feeling a bit indignant.
Sirius is amazed by her ability to hide sudden bursts of emotion. Elena notices how much more composed the silver-haired boy has become lately.
Chibi Elena resolves to stay firm and work hard in the current situation.
A sudden firm step sounds as Elena asks if he is dissatisfied.
A soft rhythmic rubbing sounds as Sirius pats her head and smiles. Chibi Elena cheers while the silver-haired boy laughs at her playful antics.
A soft, quiet mumble sounds as Elena tries to regain her composure.
Sirius watches the girl with a gentle, patient expression on his face.
Sirius is surprised to learn that Elena's birthday is earlier than his.
A sudden sharp stop sounds as Sirius asks about her emotional perception.
Elena recalls hiding her ability to read emotions from the silver-haired boy.
Elena worries that Sirius might find her unpleasant if he learns the truth. Sirius apologizes for a mistake, leaving the brown-haired girl feeling very confused.
Sirius explains his perspective on the complex social rules of their household.
A soft, quiet chuckle sounds as Elena smiles warmly at his words. Elena offers a light, reassuring pat as she tells him Han's a worry. Elena promises to forgive him if he explains himself later, feeling lighter.
A sudden, rhythmic knocking sounds as they both turn toward the door.
A long, slow creak sounds as the butler enters the drawing room.
Elena is concerned by the rare presence of the house's head butler.
The butler clarifies the Duke requested Elena, sparking her deep internal worry.
The two companions sit side by side, their feet planted firmly on the floor.
A repetitive, rapid tapping sounds as the brown-haired man's leg shakes nervously.
A series of heavy thuds sounds as Elena scolds Joseph for fidgeting.
Joseph leans back in sighs, complaining about the long wait and his untidy clothes.
Joseph asks Elena if she knows who their father is meeting, but she is clueless.
A close-up of Elena's yellow eyes as she realizes the meeting isn't about the exam.
Elena notes that Joseph was right about their father never calling for serious matters before.
Oppressive emotions begin to flow through the narrow cracks of the parlor door. An intense, painful aura radiates from the carpeted floor in front of the closed doors.
The long, slow creak sounds as Elena wonders what could possibly be on fire inside.
Courtney shouts for the two of them to enter the room immediately with angry intensity.
The three siblings stand before the Duke of Rhodes and his grand sunset-lit office.
Elena is completely bewildered by the strange, intense atmosphere in her father's office.
Elena notes that Joseph looks just as confused as she does regarding Courtney's reactions.
Elena observes the intense, swirling aura of anger radiating from her sister, Courtney.
The Duke's mouth curves into a slight smile as he prepares to get to the point.
The Duke states that both children should know the importance of Courtney's upcoming test.
Elena realizes this is the final hurdle before Courtney can become the family's successor.
Elena reflects on the immense difficulty of this final test compared to all previous preparations.
Elena wonders what this high-stakes successor test could possibly have to do with her.
Elena reflects on her quiet life while Joseph has been busy preparing for his tests.
The Duke smiles, noting they both seem to think this is only Courtney's business.
Elena and Joseph are shocked and unsettled to see the Duke of Rhodes laughing.
The Duke declares that the situation will no longer be exclusive to Courtney starting today.
The Duke orders Joseph and Elena to take the exact same test to retrieve a branch.
The three siblings stand in shock as their father outlines the week-long duration of the test.
The Duke smirks while suggesting that failing to return might result in staying there forever.
The Duke watches the silhouettes of his children, finding their varied reactions quite interesting.
The Duke notes that Joseph is confused while Courtney has simply given up in anger. The Duke observes that Elena, whom he usually cannot read, is paralyzed by pure fear. The Duke concludes that this test is essentially a death sentence for the brown-haired girl.
Elena is depicted falling into a pit of fire like a delicate, ruined greenhouse flower.
The Duke smiles cruelly, sensing that Elena's fear puts her completely under his control. A soft, quiet slide sounds as the Duke rests his hand on the desk.
The Duke stands before the window, announcing that the best performer will inherit his place. A loud, sudden bang sounds as Courtney forcefully grabs Elena's shoulders in the hallway.
Courtney stares with intense resentment at Elena, her face twisted with a dark, angry scowl.
Courtney has Elena pinned against the corridor wall as the sunset glows through the windows.
Courtney sneers at the girl, mockingly noting how confused she looks in this moment.
Elena realizes her sister cannot distinguish between her genuine confusion and her overwhelming fear.
Elena demands to be let go while deciding there is no reason to correct her sister.
Courtney asks why Elena is playing dumb when rumors say she is the preferred successor.
Courtney recalls her confidence that she would be the successor if she survived the year. Courtney reflects on the Duke's favoritism toward Elena and the rumors spreading among the staffs. Courtney remembers the rumors catching fire because the Duke secretly supported them behind his back.
Courtney bites her thumb in agitation while trying to dismiss the rumors as nonsense.
Courtney's expression turns dark and intense as she considers the possibility that the rumors are true.
Courtney suspects that Elena purposefully spread the rumors to undermine her position as the successor.
Courtney leans in close to insist that she is the one who truly understands their father.
A soft, repetitive rustle sounds as Elena struggles against Courtney's much stronger physique and grip.
Courtney mockingly claims their father will help Elena while leaving her to die during the test.
Elena begins to cry as Courtney refuses to stop their conversation until she is finished. Courtney blames Sirius Hyperion for ruining everything since Elena has been sticking to him since childhood. Courtney reflects on Sirius surviving his original purpose to shake the succession.
The sister resents Elena's opportunity to stand at the top of Rhodes.
Courtney bites her lip, regretting her past lack of ambition for power. She recalls when Sirius first arrived and regrets not befriending him then. Courtney admits to herself that she only recently valued Sirius's true worth.
In the corridor, Courtney pins Elena, asserting that her absence is needed.
Courtney claims that the family successor position would finally be hers alone.
Courtney screams in pain after Elena pokes her eyes to escape her.
Elena gasps for air while Courtney stumbles back in total shock. A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Elena forcefully pushes her sister away. Elena flees the hallway as Courtney struggles to recover on the floor.
Clutching her bruised neck, Elena credits Sirius for teaching her self-defense.
Elena continues to run through the hallway, terrified her sister will catch her.
A sudden, sharp slip sounds as Elena's foot loses its grip.
Elena cries out in terror as she begins to fall forward. Strong, steady hands reach out into the light to catch the falling girl.
A soft, heavy thud sounds as Sirius catches Elena in his halls.
Elena looks up with teary yellow eyes, recognizing the boy catching her. Sirius holds the girl close and asks if she is truly okay.
Sirius reacts with quiet shock upon seeing the dark bruise on her neck.
A low, menacing growl sounds as Sirius bares his teeth in rage. Sirius orders Elena to stay while he prepares to confront her attacker.
Elena clutches the silver-haired boy's sleeve, trembling as she remains on the floor.
A loud, echoing wail sounds as Elena finally lets her emotions explode. Sirius stands frozen, stunned by the intensity of Elena's sudden, loud sobbing.
Sirius kneels to comfort her, promising to stay by her side instead. Elena laments how everyone treats her unfairly while she cries into her hands.
Elena reflects on the Duke's cruelty and her sister's intent to kill her. Elena begs to be let out of the oppressive environment of Rhodes Castle.
A soft, quiet sniffle sounds as Sirius asks if she's feeling better.
Sirius gently examines Elena's neck wound while she admits it still hurts.
Sirius sighs, blaming himself for arriving too late to protect her directly.
Sirius recalls running to her aid as soon as he heard Courtney's location. Sirius vows with a dark expression to never let this happen again.
Sirius promises to banish Courtney, but Elena mentions a much bigger problem.
Elena explains that the Duke has just summoned her to his office.
Elena tearfully describes the joint summons involving her, Courtney, and her brother.
The Duke commands his children to retrieve a branch from the Golden Field. Elena's yellow eyes overflow with tears as she equates the test to death.
Elena pleads for help as Sirius considers the dangers of the Golden Field.
The Golden Field at the estate's western end is known for yellow branches. Despite its name, the place consists of rugged mountains and leafless trees. The field is famous for the glowing yellow tree at its very center.
Elena trembles, knowing the area is a nest for lethal demons and monsters. Elena cries about her incompetence while Sirius listens to her self-doubt.
A firm, sudden grab sounds as Sirius takes Elena's hands to encourage her.
Sirius insists that Elena possesses many skills she hasn't yet fully recognized. Sirius reminds her of the high praise she receives from her various tutors.
Chibi Elena smiles while telling Sirius that she no longer plays around aimlessly. Sirius highlights her ability to follow scouts and defend herself from Courtney.
A soft, quiet chuckle sounds as Sirius credits his teaching for Elena's defense, while she playfully teases him for showing off.
Sirius smiles radiantly as he declares that the most important thing Elena must do is always remain by his side.
While touching her hand, Sirius encourages the girl to simply continue doing the things she excels at. Sirius vows to accompany Elena on her mission, causing her yellow eyes to widen in a mixture of surprise and relief.
Sirius gives a warm, closed-eyed smile while promising Elena that he will never leave her alone to face the upcoming challenge.
Flashback to 3 days earlier, Sirius stands in the Duke's office, stunned to learn he is being excluded from the successor test. Standing before the Duke's massive desk, the silver-haired boy firmly requests to hear the reasoning behind his sudden exclusion. The Duke bluntly states that there is no reason for Sirius to take the test since he possesses no blood relation to the House of Rhodes. A sudden, sharp flinch sounds as Sirius realizes he was caught off guard by the exclusion everyone expected him to face. Sirius is surrounded by an oppressive aura while realizing the household still views him as a complete stranger. The Duke smirks while suggesting that one can still become part of the family regardless of whether they share the same bloodline.
Sirius asks for clarification on the Duke's cryptic words, but the man dismissively accuses him of continuing to play a role.
A soft, steady thump sounds as the Duke asks if Elena is the real reason he wants to be part of the family.
Sirius recalls Elena's bright, genuine smile and realizes that the Duke has already seen through his hidden feelings for her.
Sirius looks away, thinking that the Duke, who is driven only by dark emotions, could never truly understand the nature of his heart.
Looking back at a memory of sitting with Elena, Sirius admits to himself that he doesn't just want her, but truly likes her.
Sirius decides there is no point in explaining his true feelings to a man who would only use them as a weapon.
Sirius asks if the Duke would give Elena to him if the rumors were true, and the Duke says it is possible depending on his ability.
Sirius looks down at his boots while asking the Duke what specific task he must perform to earn such a reward.
A quick, crisp rustle sounds as the Duke unfurls a scroll to reveal a single task for the silver-haired boy.
Pointing to a map of the Golden Field, the Duke explains the public test where the children must retrieve a yellow branch.
Sirius is confused by the Duke's mention of the other children, only for the man to confirm that the test is not just for Courtney.
A sudden, heavy thud sounds as Sirius learns that Joseph and Elena are also required to participate in the dangerous test. Sirius is horrified, thinking it is absolute nonsense to throw Elena, who was raised like a delicate flower, into such a wild environment. A blood-red flower petal falls as Sirius wonders how Elena could possibly survive being placed in the middle of the golden field. A quick, sharp flinch sounds as Sirius decides he absolutely cannot allow Elena to go to that dangerous place alone.
The silver-haired boy remains silent, his expression darkening as he processes the full weight of the Duke's manipulative plan. A soft, firm tap sounds as the Duke clarifies he doesn't want her unprotected and instructs Sirius not to worry.
The Duke instructs Sirius to follow Elena into the field while making it appear as though doing so is purely his own decision.
The Duke warns that Sirius must not help with Elena's assignment because he has a much more difficult personal task to complete.
Sirius considers the situation while focusing on ensuring Elena's safety throughout the duration of the upcoming test.
As Elena walks through a sunlit field in his mind, Sirius realizes that breaking a branch is trivial compared to his own mission. The Duke explains a missing Rhodes gem is lost in the golden field and tasks Sirius with finding and returning it.
Sirius is surprised to learn that the target is a gem rather than magic ore, which the Duke confirms with a knowing look.
The Duke describes the gem as something significantly more valuable than any of the light element ores found in the field. When Sirius asks for more details, the Duke tells him he has said enough and that the boy must find the rest alone. The Duke leans in close, sternly ordering Sirius to ensure that the details of their secret conversation never leak out.
The Duke promises that if Sirius successfully completes this hidden task, he will grant him any wish he desires.
A long, slow creak sounds as the Duke remains behind in his office following their intense discussion.
The Duke sits in silence at his desk, staring out the window as the orange light of the sunset fades.
A soft, quiet chuckle sounds as the Duke notes how desperate Sirius has become for the sake of the brown-haired girl.
The Duke finds Sirius's desperation amusing, wondering what exactly about Elena has made the boy so incredibly frantic.
The Duke muses that anything making Sirius this desperate must be truly valuable, just like the gem they discussed.
The Duke recalls researching Elena's real father, his twin brother, while looking through the family archives late at night.
The family tree shows a name blacked out with ink representing his brother Linus, who killed himself and erased his history.
The Duke reflects on his past annoyance while flipping through the fast pages of the Rhodes family history book.
While searching through the old records, the Duke suddenly discovers an ancient note that had been neatly hidden beneath a page. Standing in the dim light of the library, the Duke carefully reads the contents of the mysterious note he just found.
The note reveals a secret story about a glowing yellow gem that granted the Rhodes family the power of their golden eyes.
Silhouette figures with glowing eyes are shown as the narrator reveals the legendary origin of the family's unique sight.
Ancient text reveals the legendary power to read emotions resides in golden jewels.
A torn note describes the inevitable fate of becoming one with the jewel. The Duke smirks, believing Sirius will successfully bring him the blood of Hyperion.
As Rhodes' power fades, the Duke plots to use descendants to revive his house.
He decides to engage Sirius with Elena if the dangerous mission concludes successfully. The Duke envisions binding the noble wolf to his faithful dog through their union. Elena watches the bustling castle courtyard as preparations for the successor tests begin. Seeing servants move heavy crates, Elena realizes the trial is finally starting to feel real.
A formal announcement declares that the test to decide the successor will begin soon. Elena pauses, recognizing a familiar bickering tone echoing from nearby in the garden.
Joseph asks if Elena truly intends to tackle the upcoming challenge alongside Sirius.
Elena confirms her plans while Joseph teasingly calls her completely shameless.
Elena argues her partnership isn't a foul since their father hasn't intervened. Joseph notes her change in attitude since she originally lacked interest in the succession.
Joseph mutters that Elena wouldn't survive alone, while she wonders why he's being talkative.
Joseph dismissively tells her to do as she pleases since he has a strategy.
Elena reveals she has decided to temporarily join forces with Courtney until the end. A close look at Elena's golden eyes shows her quiet determination for the test.
The reality of her alliance with Courtney weighs heavily on her mind.
Joseph is shocked by the unprecedented idea of Courtney and himself cooperating.
Elena reflects on the uniqueness of the situation and the unlikely possibility of cooperation. Elena thinks that either party will likely betray the other before the test ends. Joseph warns Elena to be careful of Courtney's anger, but she retorts the same.
Joseph realizes with a sweat drop that the Duke never cared for him personally.
Joseph bids them farewell while Sirius stands in the background with a dark Ra.
Before leaving, Joseph mockingly tells Sirius to do his best during the trial.
Elena finds Joseph's shameless confidence impressive and notes that he owes them one. Elena recalls a memory of a younger Joseph constantly hiding and running away.
Elena concludes that Joseph's quick-witted nature will ensure his survival wherever he goes. A loud, echoing call sounds as a messenger commands all participants to gather immediately. The manicured hedges of the castle garden stand ready for the formal gathering.
The Duke commands his children to step forward one by one to receive instructions.
Joseph stands silently before his father as the official proceedings for the trial begin.
The Duke observes Courtney's high-collared dress, knowing it hides her recent neck bruise. He correctly surmises that Courtney must have done something to provoke Sirius's intense rage.
The Duke notes Courtney's recent absence, assuming she had considered giving up the test.
Courtney denies giving up, and the Duke demands results while wishing her safety. Courtney's blue eyes narrow with a cold, intense light during her father's scrutiny. The Duke expresses disappointment, noting that Joseph no longer even tries to hide feelings. He reflects on how Courtney became arrogant after being chosen as his right hand.
The Duke recalls Courtney's previous failures in managing those beneath her in the family.
He sternly tells Courtney that she revealed her hostility toward Elena far too early. A brief, tense silence follows as Courtney processes her father's harsh and critical assessment.
Courtney mutters a quiet promise that she will not disappoint him during this test.
Joseph finds Courtney's reaction amusing, viewing her as a child being easily provoked. The Duke calls out Joseph's name, receiving an immediate and spirited response from him. The Duke orders Joseph to prove his ability, and Joseph vows to succeed. A soft, steady step sounds as the Duke prepares to address his final child. The Duke commands Elena to step forward, causing the girl to look up nervously.
Elena walks toward her father with hesitation while Sirius watches over her from behind.
Elena stands nervously as the Duke commands her to step forward. A soft, steady step sounds as the Duke approaches the brown-haired girl. A quick, sharp flinch sounds as the Duke reaches to touch her hair. The Duke hopes she returns home without a single hair being damaged. A brief side glance sounds as the Duke evaluates Elena's silent, fearful reaction. The Duke reflects that he still needs Elena for his plan to succeed. He finds it acceptable that she is unable to control her obvious fear. The Duke smiles broadly while wishing everyone a safe return from the test. Sunlight filters brightly through the lush green leaves of the forest canopy. A soft, firm top sounds as a boot steps onto the grassy ground. Sirius stands ready as Elena is helped down from the golden carriage.
Elena reflects on the difficult journey involving long carriage rides and teleportation.
Elena looks ahead with determination, glad they have finally arrived at the field. Elena leads the way into the forest with Sirius following closely behind her. A brief side glance sounds as Elena looks back at the silver-haired boar.
Elena tells herself that she does not feel the slightest bit nervous.
A sharp, sudden gasp sounds as Sirius reacts to her silent claim.
Sirius instructs Elena to check the carriage one last time for forgotten items.
Elena confirms she has everything while clutching a scroll and her necklace.
Elena reflects on bringing her mother's locket as her most precious keepsake.
Sirius reminds her to prioritize keeping the dagger safe above all else. A quick, smooth rustle sounds as an attendant provides maps for them.
A formal, deep bow sounds as the servants bid the children farewell. A formal notice declares they will meet again in exactly 1 week.
A firm, tight clench sounds as Elena's gloved hand grips her skirt. Elena faces the sunlit woods, focused on the challenge that lies ahead. The Duke's instructions permit the participants freedom of action beyond the rules. Courtney and Joseph are shown with a warning against attacking each other.
Elena shakes her head, deciding now isn't the time for such thoughts.
Elena notes that Courtney and Joseph have already departed into the field. Sirius suggests they decide on a travel route before they begin moving. Sirius plans to cross a mountain where dangerous devils are unlikely to appear.
Elena likes the idea of saving their energy on the first den.
Sirius estimates they should reach the center of the field in 4 days. A soft, steady tap sounds as Sirius questions the center's geographical name. Sirius admits the origin of the location's name has long been unknown.
A bright, joyful giggle sounds as they discuss the field's golden trees.
A soft, smooth rustle sounds as Sirius reaches out to take her hand.
Elena is surprised by Sirius's sudden and uncharacteristic attempt to hold hands.
Elena realizes the silver-haired boy is blushing despite his attempt to appear calm. A bright, joyful giggle sounds as Elena finds his obvious nervousness cute. A firm, sudden grasp sounds as Elena playfully takes Sirius's hand. A soft, quiet chuckle sounds as Sirius accepts her sudden, playful touch.
Elena asks if he intends to devotedly serve her all week long.
Sirius takes offense, asking why she treats him like he's her underlayer.
Sirius explains that being called a mother sounds horrific to his ears.
Elena realizes that her joking has accidentally made the silver-haired boy angry. A sudden, sharp halt sounds as Sirius stops walking in his annoyance.
A soft, firm squeeze sounds as Elena explains her joke about being a husband. Elena is relieved that her hasty excuse has successfully reduced Sirius's anger.
Sirius walks beside Elena through the forest, lost in quiet thought. The silver-haired boy looks down thoughtfully as he continues their journey. Bright pink berries grow amidst the lush greenery of the woods. The night sky glows over the first day's safe, devil-free journey. Sirius and Elena relax by a warm campfire inside a stone cave. Sirius studies a map, worrying about the devils appearing on the trail tomorrow. A soft, quiet murmur sounds as the silver-haired boy hesitates in thought. Sirius is relieved to see that Elena is sleeping soundly beside her. He reflects on Elena's exhaustion and the hidden fear she might feel. Sirius thinks Elena's sleeping face hasn't changed since they were young children. The boy watches over the sleeping girl with an intense, lingering gaze. He finds Elena's peaceful, adorable sleeping face makes him unable to avoid smiling. A sleepy, muffled groan sounds as Elena begins to wake up slowly.
Alina rubs her eyes, asking Sirius why he is still not sleeping yet. Sirius explains their night watch agreement, but insists it is not her turn.
Alina asks if she can really sleep more after Sirius offers.
Sirius tells her to sleep well while she asks for a later wake-up.
Sirius exhales deeply, relieved he wasn't caught staring at her sleeping face. Alina wakes up in the morning, annoyed that Sirius never woke her.
Sirius lightheartedly argues that Elena needed the extra rest for her own sake. Sirius asks if she doubts his words as roses bloom around him.
Elena finds his perfect appearance after a long night watch completely unfair.
Elena looks on silently, reflecting on their current bond during the difficult test. She wonders if Sirius will cherish and remember the memories of today.
Elena feels a sense of loneliness creeping in as she walks alone.
She hopes their close relationship continues well into their future lives together.
Chibi Elena screams while Chibi Sirius asks about their breakfast food supply. Elena panics over the meal while Sirius asks to taste it first. A wooden bowl is filled with a rich, steaming hot vegetable stew.
Both of them agree the morning meal is delicious and very good.
Sirius notes the stew helps warm his body after the chilly night. Elena offers more food while Sirius playfully insists she eats it instead. Sirius smiles warmly and tells Elena to eat until she's full. Elena grows serious, noting the unknown possibilities they face starting today. Sirius wonders what she has been deeply thinking about for so long. Elena turns to Sirius, revealing she has been considering an important plan.
Chibi Elena suggests climbing a high tree to survey their dangerous route.
Sirius realizes this survey plan was on her mind from the beginning. He reflects on Elena's desire to contribute an idea and be helpful. Sirius praises her brilliant idea, much to Elena's surprised and happy delight. Elena boastfully claims to be an expert when it comes to climbing trees. She compares herself to a squirrel while Sirius worries about her falling. Elena reminds Sirius that he was the one who taught her to climb. Sirius recalls teaching her to climb after her hide-and-seek tears warm ago.
Sirius raises his hands, laughing as he admits he cannot win against her.
Sirius glances back at Elena as they prepare to move out together. Elena's face is filled with happiness since leaving the mansion behind them. Sirius reflects on Elena's bravery despite her father's past attempts to brainwash her. He vows to protect her happiness even if he must face hell.
Elena smiles brightly among sunflowers as Sirius wonders about his own feelings.
Elena reacts with sudden surprise as her name is called while she's climbing. Sirius offers to climb for her, but Elena insists she is just concentrating. Elena notices something unsettling while surveying the forest from her high vantage point. Elena reflects on her plan to find a path hampered by strange auras. Dark, smoky wisps of energy rise ominously from the dense forest greenery below. Elena observes an aura that can only be perceived through her special golden eyes. Elena is stunned to find that dreadful monsters are emitting complex emotional auras.
A soft, rapid thud sounds as Elena questions the existence of monster emotions.
Elena reflects that she has never read about monsters possessing any kind of feelings.
A soft, steady tap sounds as Sirius asks if she spotted any immediate dangers.
Elena asks Sirius for the map to show him what she has discovered.
Elena indicates the specific locations on the map where she saw the emotional emissions.
Elena decides to adjust their route as much as possible to avoid the monsters. Elena smiles confidently, believing she has identified the safest and best path forward. Elena calls out to Sirius, who responds with a brief, curious hum.
Elena beams happily, glad that she can finally be of some help to Sirius.
A soft, firm stomp sounds as the pair continues their trek through the woods. Sirius is surprised they reach the second campground well before the sunset. Sirius evaluates their position and estimates they are nearing the center of the forest. Sirius notes that they have only encountered a few small and fleeing monsters today. A soft, quick flinch sounds as Sirius questions their suspiciously good luck. Elena suggests enjoying the easy progress while Sirius warns of harder days ahead. Elena feels a wave of relief that Sirius does not suspect her secret efforts. Elena reflects on how the emotional auras allowed them to avoid every major threat. A soft, heavy thud sounds as Sirius suddenly sits down to rest. Sirius admits to feeling a bit tired and wanting to take a short break. Elena observes Sirius's mental fatigue after he spent the entire day on high alert. Elena offers to handle the sleeping bags while Sirius rests without a campfire. A soft, quick rustle sounds as Sirius leans his head against Elena's arm. Sirius asks if he can lean on her for a little while as he rests.
Sirius confesses that he is feeling sleepy, leaving Elena stunned and silent.
A bright, sudden laugh sounds as Chibi Elena giggles at a sleepy Chibi Sirius. Elena laughs as she notes it has been a long time since his sleep talking.
Elena encourages Sirius to rest well and promises to wake him up later.
A soft, quiet sigh sounds as the two rest together under the fading light.
Elena is glad she could help Sirius rest, though she worries about tomorrow's room.
Elena realizes they must eventually pass through areas filled with dense, dark auras.
A soft, cold shiver sounds as Elena resolves to brace herself for the challenge. A soft, firm squeeze sounds as Elena holds onto Sirius's hand while he sleeps.
Elena declares that she isn't afraid as long as Sirius stays by her side.
A sudden, sharp whistle sounds as a projectile flies through the bright forest sky. A loud, sharp crack sounds as an attack strikes the ground with intense force.
A sudden, wet splash sounds as a large beast is defeated in the woods.
Sirius informs Elena that the area is clear and she can safely come out.
A weary, soft exhale sounds as Elena notes the increasing frequency of monster attacks.
Elena reflects on the sheer quantity of enemies blocking their path forward.
Sirius asks if they should keep moving if there are no more immediate threats.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Elena stops after spotting a strange aura.
Elena wonders about the nature of the uniquely bright energy she sees ahead.
Elena notes that this specific aura is far different from anything she has seen.
Sirius pauses at the door while Elena watches him in shock. Elena's internal thoughts shift toward her neighboring room assignment and Sirius's identity. The silver-haired boy looks back and asks if she has anything to say.
Elena's face flushes a bright red as she reacts to his proximity.
Elena quickly wishes him a good night before retreating as doors swing.
A loud bang sounds as Sirius stands alone, looking toward the door.
Elena collapses onto her bed, crying out in frustration over her behavior. A rhythmic rolling sounds as Elena laments how embarrassing the situation was.
Elena's face burns with heat as she reflects on her sudden panic.
A soft thud sounds as Elena sits, questioning the Duke's room assignments.
She stares intensely, dismissing the idea that her father actually cares for her.
Elena recalls Courtney's annoyance regarding the Duke's orders to stay away.
Elena reflects on the Duke's lack of care despite her unique golden eyes.
She recalls her previous life, remembering her death and floating in darkness.
Elena remembers reading a novel where Sirius Hyperion was the main character. She was ejected from her world and reborn before finishing the story. Elena was reborn as the youngest daughter in a chaotic novel family.
She remembers her birth as the Duke of Rhodes entered the room.
Elena reflects on her father's notoriety and cold, callous nature toward others.
A sudden realization strikes as she questions the Duke's presence at her birth.
Elena recalls the Duke's reputation for extreme coldness and lack of empathy. In the novel, Sirius was a perfect yet blood-stained, powerful male lead.
The prince was characterized by malice and systematically defeated every rival he encountered.
Sirius was far too cruel for romance, resulting in no female lead.
His only goal was absolute strength, leading him to destroy marriage-seeking families.
Among those destroyed was Duke Rhodes, who had intended to manipulate the prince.
Elena realizes the importance of her birth into this long, messy story.
She considers Duke Rhodes a terrible madman based on the original novel's plot. Elena finds it completely impossible for her father to smile with such kindness.
As a baby, Elena observes a mysterious white mist emanating from the Duke.
A soft whisper sounds as the Duke declares the child to be perfect.
Duke Rhodes names the baby Elena and orders a luxurious garden room.
He commands the staff to provide the best care without any lack. Baby Elena questions why she is receiving such special treatment from the Duke.
A sharp clap sounds as Elena realizes she might be a main character.
She imagines herself at the center of a heart-healing, touching family story.
Elena observes the Duke's cold indifference toward all of his other children.
She remains convinced that her life is destined to be a healing story.
A sharp creak sounds as a slightly older Elena hears someone entering.
Elena runs forward to greet her father, who appears as a dark silhouette.
The Duke orders his staff to step back, surprising the young girl. Elena notes that the Duke's usual white mist is always present.
Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts as a suffocating black smoke surrounds the Duke. A cold shudder sounds as Elena's instinct tells her she must run away.
She questions these fearful thoughts, remembering only her father's past love and care.
The Duke's dark, silhouetted hand reaches out slowly toward the young girl's head.
A sharp crunch sounds as the Duke suddenly grabs Elena's head with force.
Elena's yellow eye reflects the dark figure as she reacts in absolute shock.
As her consciousness fades, she hears the Duke's final cryptic words to her.
Elena recalls the lesson that golden eyes are meant to signal immediate flight.
Joseph and Courtney loom as the possible sources of danger.
A soft, firm grasp sounds as Elena pulls Sirius into the brush.
The forest remains still as the two hide within Greenray.
A soft, quick rustle sounds as a boot treads on the grass. Joseph appears, looking weary as the two watch him secretly.
Elena offers a strained excuse when Sirius asks how she knew someone approached.
Sirius observes Joseph's obvious anger and concludes he seems very strange. Sirius notices that Joseph is intentionally heading away from the center.
Sirius questions if Joseph has decided to abandon the exam entirely.
A sudden, sharp shout sounds as Sirius calls out to Joseph. Running to catch up, Elena asks Joseph why he is leaving so soon.
Joseph dismisses his earlier frustration, though the tension remains quite thick.
Elena questions what happened between him and Courtney during their partnership.
Joseph admits his surprise at crossing paths with the Paria. Joseph considers their meeting fate while Sirius demands a full explanation.
Joseph's gaze is heavy with the weight of recent traumatic events. Sirius listens intently as Joseph prepares to recount his recent ordeal.
Joseph begins explaining the details of the pact he made earlier. Flashbacks reveal Joseph and Courtney agreeing to cooperate for the test.
Joseph reflects on the initial relief of having a battle partner.
He recalls how his fear of betrayal kept him awake at night.
The memory shifts to the second camp and a turning point. Joseph describes how Courtney introduced her hidden masked allies to him. 3 masked men stand ready, their eyes cold and very menacing.
Joseph realizes Courtney is bringing dangerous outsiders into their family's affairs.
He questions why she would resort to such a dishonorable tactic.
Joseph explains that bringing armed soldiers into their territory is treasonous.
He worries that Courtney is incurring debts she can never repay.
Joseph remains baffled by what his sister hopes to achieve here.
Courtney mocks Joseph's shock as she reveals her true ruthless nature.
Joseph determines he must act intimidated to survive her mind reading.
Courtney permits Joseph to stay one final night before they part.
Joseph identifies her group as well-trained assassins in several formidable knights.
Joseph feigns congratulations while secretly planning his escape to find Sirius.
Courtney gloats over her inevitable succession as Joseph begins to pull away. Joseph explains he searched for Sirius immediately after learning their plan.
The fake wolf hunt strategy is revealed as Courtney's final move.
Joseph warns Sirius that Courtney and her assassins are hunting him.
A heavy, tense silence falls over the group after the warning.
Joseph explains the derogatory meaning behind the Emperor's fake wolf slur.
Elena is horrified to learn Courtney has allied with the Emperor.
Joseph warns that Courtney's desperation makes her a very unpredictable enemy.
Joseph expresses immense gratitude for being saved by their chance meeting.
Elena quietly takes credit for the find while Joseph fears Imperial takeover.
Sirius and Elena realize the Duke's antipathy has made him a target.
A sudden, bright ping sounds as Elena's eyes glow with resolve.
Elena becomes anxious, warning them of the high number of assassins.
Sirius argues that they lack the necessary proof to report them. He notes that a hasty retreat would only hand Courtney victor. Sirius vows to eliminate the problem before it becomes even larger.
Elena emphasizes the need to identify the knight and suggests eliminating them.
A soft, respectful bow sounds as Joseph accepts the choice made by his superior. A sudden, quick flinch sounds as Sirius decides to return with only Elena.
A soft, sideways glance sounds while Sirius reflects on the validity of Joseph's earlier point.
Sirius realizes staying in the forest is becoming far too dangerous for Elena.
Sirius calls out to Joseph with a grave expression.
Sirius asks Joseph if he is truly prepared to prioritize Elena's safety over his own life.
A sudden, hesitant pause sounds as a weary, soft exhale sounds while Joseph reacts to the heavy demand.
A sudden, cold breeze sounds as Elena senses a shift in the local atmosphere.
Elena wonders if she is the cause of the sudden tension between the two men.
Elena recalls how her individual efforts with Sirius helped them progress through the forest.
Elena considers trying to convince Joseph with logic, but doubts he will listen to her now.
A soft, firm squeeze sounds as Elena resolves to stop being a burden to Sirius. A soft, steady thump sounds as Elena stands in the forest light.
Surrounded by falling petals, Sirius asks Elena to remain by his side.
Sirius reflects on how well they have worked together as a team.
A soft, quiet click sounds as Sirius offers a warm, confident smile.
Elena is left momentarily stunned by Sirius's sudden and earnest request. A bright, sudden smile sounds as Elena happily agrees to continue their journey together.
Elena reminds Sirius that he must also take care to remain safe.
A soft, quick dash sounds as Joseph departs, leaving the two alone.
Sirius watches the forest trail, hoping Joseph returns to the mansion without incident.
Sirius narrows his eyes while contemplating a worry he has kept to himself.
Sirius reflects on the numerous dangers they faced, noting one specific fear he avoided mentioning.
He worries about the consequences if Courtney is allowed to act without restraint.
Sirius realizes that Courtney's first target for elimination is already quite obvious.
Sirius decides that the mere possibility of danger to Elena is reason enough for his actions. Elena gazes at Sirius, sensing the weight of his unspoken thoughts.
Elena questions the safety of their current path, but Sirius insists they have no other choice.
Sirius predicts that the assassins they previously defeated will soon regroup to strike again.
Elena observes through her golden eyes that murderous energy is starting to congregate nearby.
Sirius suggests utilizing the neutral threat of forest monsters to thin out their enemies.
A soft, firm nod sounds as Elena accepts the plan while Sirius checks her well-being.
Sirius reassures Elena that he will protect her, urging her not to fret.
A sudden, firm grab sounds as Elena takes Sirius's face in her hands, calling him foolish.
Elena admits that while she worries about his safety, a deeper concern weighs on their heart.
Elena recalls the disturbing sight of Sirius looking completely cold after taking a life. Elena reflects on how a young Sirius remained unnervingly calm after an assassination attempt.
Elena considers the trauma of being hunted by one's own sibling.
Elena's heart aches, imagining the coldness Sirius had to cultivate to survive his past.
Elena rests her head against Sirius's shoulder, acknowledging her worry may not change their reality.
Sirius insists that her concern actually changes everything for him.
A soft, light rub sounds as Sirius smiles, crediting Elena for his renewed strength.
A bright, sudden flush sounds as Elena boastfully claims she can defeat anyone with his support.
A sudden, sharp shout sounds as Chibi Elena reacts bashfully to Sirius's genuine sincerity.
Elena senses Sirius is teasing her, yet she is glad her presence helps him.
Elena outlines a plan to provoke a monster and lead it toward a specific wreck.
The strategy involves letting the monster fight Courtney's henchmen while they sneak away safely.
Elena describes her ability to pinpoint an aura's origin simply by touching its emissions.
Elena notes that Sirius often looks curious about her tracking skills but never asks for an explanation.
Sirius reflects on the unconditional trust Joseph has placed in him.
Hiding atop a ridge, the pair watches a group of armed men below. Elena reports seeing 15 enemies as an assassin below shouts about monster movements.
An agitated mercenary tells his leader the monsters were wounded before they arrived.
The group leader orders silence while questioning how much longer they must endure.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as the mercenaries detect a disturbance nearby.
Sirius suggests moving closer as Elena agrees to the stealthy approach.
A soft, quick rustle sounds as Sirius carefully leads Elena through thicket.
A sudden, wet splash sounds while Sirius wonders if a nearby waterfall is masked.
Elena notes the group has split up while Sirius admits their plan failed.
Sirius tightly clenches his fist, realizing they are running out of time.
He worries about Elena's stamina as only 4 days remain for their return. Elena suddenly shouts Sirius's name as a new danger reveals itself. A sudden, sharp roar sounds as massive monsters emerge to attack the group.
A sudden, sharp roar sounds while the bear-like beast lunges forward aggressively. Spotted by their pursuers, the group of mercenaries charges to capture the pair. A sudden, firm grasp sounds as Sirius lifts Elena to flee from danger. A soft, quick dash sounds while Sirius curses his lapse in focus.
Sirius realizes the enemies provoked monsters to flush them out of hiding.
A sudden, sharp cue sounds as a giant spider crushes one of the assassins. A sudden, sharp shout sounds while the enemies proclaim loyalty to their king.
Sirius remains silent, his gaze darkening as the situation grows increasingly dire.
Reaching a cliff edge, Sirius and Elena find themselves cornered by approaching foes.
The enemy leader mocks their attempt at escape, declaring they are finished.
Sirius identifies the group as an assorted collection of the Emperor's hired killers.
A soft, quick rustle sounds as a familiar voice mockingly greets the prince.
The intruder comments on how much Sirius's combat skills have allegedly improved.
A tall, bearded man reveals himself as the primary antagonist of the encounter.
Sirius informs a worried Elena that the man is the Emperor's right hand.
A fleeting memory of past helplessness flashes through Sirius's mind during the confrontation.
He recalls the crushing loneliness he felt while trapped within the palace walls.
A soft, firm squeeze sounds as Sirius resolves to move past his childhood.
He declares internally that he is no longer the weak child he once was.
The bearded knight draws his blade, challenging Sirius to finally surrender his position.
A loud, sharp crack sounds as Sirius lunges forward to strike his opponent.
Sirius tells Elena to close her eyes while he finishes the fight quickly.
Elena finds the situation frightening, yet trusts in Sirius's promise of protection. Elena senses something is terribly wrong as the mercenaries surround them in shadow.
She detects an overwhelming surge of murderous intent lurking within the forest brush. A loud, sharp crack sounds as Elena frantically searches for the hidden threat. Dark energy begins to swirl around the clearing as the tension peaks.
A soft, quick glint sounds as Elena spots a hidden trap in bushes.
Elena desperately screams that they have walked directly into a lethal ambush. She warns of a hidden archer as the enemy leader reels in shock. Frustrated, the enemy leader orders a mass volley of arrows to be fired. A sharp whistle sounds as dozens of arrows fill the sky above them. A sudden, firm grasp sounds while Sirius holds Elena tight for a desperate move.
Sirius leaps from the cliff with Elena, leaving their pursuers behind in confusion.
A soft, quick tap sounds as Sirius uses the rock wall to descend.
Standing at the edge, the lead assassin frustratedly realizes they have escaped.
The bearded leader of the assassins orders his men to find where the pair fell, confident they haven't traveled far.
He smiles mockingly, calling Sirius a foolish child for prioritizing someone else over his own survival.
The leader notes that Sirius was only hit by a poisonous arrow because he was busy protecting the girl.
Elena crouches over Sirius, who lies unconscious on the grass with an arrow protruding from his shoulder.
Elena asks if he is okay while a pained, soft groan sounds as Sirius reacts to the injury.
Trembling with fear, Elena realizes the poison must be incredibly potent to weaken someone as strong as Sirius.
Narrative text explains that while Sirius has survived poison for years, he is not immune and has only endured through sheer willpower.
Elena panics, worrying that the assassins will catch them while she remains helpless to do anything.
She clenches her teeth in determination, resolving to find a way to save him despite her fear.
A sudden, sharp, pained groan sounds as Elena decides to leave the arrow in place to prevent further blood loss.
Looking around the woods, Elena realizes they need a secure place to hide until Sirius regains consciousness.
She recalls hiding from bullies as a child, finding confidence in her long-honed ability to find perfect hiding spots. Elena's eyes widen as she spots a narrow opening hidden between the massive rock formations.
A soft, quick splash sounds as Elena struggles to carry the heavy, unconscious prince through the shallow water.
Straining under his weight, she vows to never let him fall, determined to protect him this time.
Elena resolves that it is finally her turn to step up and act as the protector for Sirius.
As they enter the dark crevice, she encourages herself with the thought that they have nearly reached safety. Sensing the murderous intent of the assassins closing in, Elena decides they must retreat further into the cave.
A soft, quick drag sounds as Elena pulls Sirius deeper inside, only to notice a strange glow ahead.
She stands before a massive, shimmering golden barrier, questioning why the stone is emitting such a light.
Elena wonders if the glowing object is an actual entrance or merely a strange, solid rock.
A sudden, soft hum sounds as Elena reaches out a blood-stained hand to touch the strange, luminous surface. To her immense shock, Elena's hand passes directly through the solid-looking light as if it were thin air. A sudden, quick thud sounds as Elena's heart races, stunned that they have found a path through the stone. She realizes it must be ancient magic and concludes that no one will ever be able to find them inside.
Sirius remains limp and unconscious against her shoulder as she gazes into the mysterious golden light.
Despite her fear, Elena carries him forward into the brilliance, seeing it as their only hope for survival. A soft, quick shimmer sounds as Elena's boot disappears into the magical golden barrier.
The cave floor remains empty and silent after the pair vanishes completely into the hidden realm.
Elena closes her eyes, bracing herself for the transition into the unknown magic ahead. She remains silent for a moment, waiting for the blinding light of the barrier to fade away. A sudden soft rustle sounds as Elena senses the wind and opens her golden eyes in shock. The pair emerges into a breathtaking, vast landscape filled with tall, shimmering golden grain under a blue sky.
Elena stares in disbelief, realizing that they have finally arrived at their destination.
She is momentarily speechless as she takes in the incredible sight of the mythical hidden land. Elena declares with awe that they have found the real golden fields they were searching for.
Forcing herself to focus, Elena gently lays Sirius down in the tall grass, knowing his treatment must come first.
She realizes she must remove the poisonous arrowhead immediately to prevent the toxin from spreading further.
Elena retrieves a small blade and hopes that Sirius has prepared some form of medicine in his gear. Searching his belongings with bloody gloves, she discovers a small, sturdy leather pouch.
She wonders if he carried these supplies specifically because he was worried she might get injured.
A tear falls as Elena calls him a fool for getting hurt while trying to protect her instead of himself.
A sudden, soft tear sounds as Elena carefully treats the wound and wraps thick bandages around his torso.
Wiping her eyes, she tells herself to stop crying and focus on removing the poison as quickly as possible.
With a look of fierce resolve, Elena vows that they will definitely make it out of the forest safely.
Sirius lies stable and bandaged in the golden grass while Elena admits she did her absolute best to help him.
A sudden, quick throb sounds as Elena watches over him, hoping that he will wake up from his ordeal soon.
She decides to let him rest, noting that he hasn't slept properly since they first entered the dangerous forest. Elena looks up at the golden sky, her mind racing with questions about the nature of this mysterious place. She ponders the secrets of the field, wondering what this hidden sanctuary truly is.
A vast, golden field of shimmering reeds sways gently.
Elena remarks that the sky is clear despite the absence of sun. She notes that the magical entrance has vanished from view.
Elena thinks the nearby tree looks as if it stands there.
A massive tree trunk glows with a warm golden light.
Elena finds the magical realm magnificent yet surreal and otherworldly.
She concludes that magic is the only explanation for this place. Soft golden light filters through the shimmering canopy of leaves. A soft, quick gasp sounds while Elena looks around the finilt.
Elena is shocked to find numerous marks all over the trunk.
She finds the old marks on the tree trunk truly mortify her. Elena asks the tree if its attacker was a bad Preston.
A soft, quick snap sounds while the tree nods in response.
Elena offers comfort to the tree despite her limited magical ability.
She examines the tree and discovers a piece of glowing amber.
Elena wonders if the tree was hurt for its valuable sap.
A soft, quick thump sounds while she wonders how it tastes.
Elena impulsively puts a glowing piece of the amber into her mouth. A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Elena regrets her reckless decision. She scolds herself for eating random things found in the wild. Elena feels a strange, overwhelming urge to eat more of it.
She describes a possessed-like state that drove her to eat it.
Elena finally understands the meaning behind the many marks on the tree. She apologizes to the tree, promising not to eat more sap.
Elena acknowledges that even a magical tree can feel great pain.
Feeling suddenly exhausted, she decides she must find time to rest. Elena resolves to stay close to protect the unconscious Prince Sirius. She admits she is incredibly sleepy while lying next to him.
Sirius remains asleep in the reeds as Elena rests beside him.
A soft, quick shur sounds as the wind blows through reeds.
Swirling golden energy surrounds the pair as they sleep in safety.
A voice calls out for Sir Karen as the scene checks.
Elena snaps awake as Courtney questions the knight about Sirius's status.
A soft, quick hum sounds as Elena's eye reflects a moth. Elena recognizes Courtney's voice and the knight who fought with Sirius.
She's glad Sirius is near while they remain successfully hidden.
Sir Karen blames Courtney for losing sight of the injured prince.
Karen reminds Courtney of his imperial backing and her past desperation.
Courtney begrudgingly agrees while questioning Karen's ultimate plan for their survival. Elena realizes the Emperor's involvement makes the situation far more dangerous.
Sir Karen admits his men have searched everywhere without finding anything.
Elena senses a mix of murderous intent and confusion from them. She realizes their lack of agreement is keeping her and Sirius safe. Elena desperately prays for the enemies to leave without noticing them.
A soft, quick hum sounds as Elena's gloved hand begins glowing.
Dark energy swirls as Elena hopes to further confuse their pursuers.
Sir Karan declares his intent to eliminate both Alina and Sirius.
Courtney expresses intense frustration and confusion over the pair's sudden disappearance.
Both Courtney and Karan suffer from sudden, dizzying, and painful headaches.
They cry out in pain as Elena's golden eye glows intensely.
Her golden eye glows with mystical intensity.
Dark, swirling energy manifests between her white-gloved palms.
Elena realizes that she is indeed controlling the magical energy as she desired.
She focuses her power, hoping this new ability will turn the tide. Sir Karen groans in mental agony as the dark energy lashes out against him.
A close-up of Karan's red-stained eye reveals the extent of the mental interference.
Karen confronts Courtney, questioning her identity and sudden appearance in the woods.
Courtney attempts to snap Karen out of his daze while they begin to clash swords.
Elena continues to concentrate on her spell, observing the enemies fighting one another.
Sir Karen lunges at Courtney with murderous intent, calling her a rat.
Courtney barely parries the blow, desperately begging Karen to stop his senseless attack.
A sudden, quick stumble sounds as a boot slips near the edge of the clearing.
A sudden, sharp scream sounds while Elena gasps as the magical energy begins to fade.
Her heart thuds rapidly as she realizes the immediate threat is moving away.
The forest clearing stands silent and empty after the chaotic encounter.
Elena collapses in relief, thankful that her pursuers have finally left the area.
She realizes the magic takes only minutes to strip a person of their sanity.
Elena reflects on the dark power she was able to grasp during the crisis.
She confirms that her golden eyes grant her the ability to manipulate emotions.
Elena notes that while Karen was easily manipulated, Courtney seemed largely unaffected.
She admits she needs far more practice to use this magic reliably.
A moment of quiet relief follows her intense magical exertion.
A sudden, soft rustle sounds as Sirius begins to stir and calls out her name. Elena looks back in shock, seeing Sirius finally conscious and sitting up.
Tears stream down her face as Sirius asks why she is crying.
A sudden, quick lunge sounds as Elena throws herself into his arms and cries out.
Sirius awkwardly tries to comfort her while she weeps into his chest.
She scolds him for apologizing, insisting that his injury was not his mistake.
Elena recalls the terrifying moment she saw him struck by the poisonous arrow.
The thought of him never waking up again remains a haunting fear for her.
She continues to weep as Sirius gently tries to comfort her in the tall grass. Feeling embarrassed about her emotional outburst, Elena tells him not to ask about it.
Sirius stands up and encourages her to stop crying.
Sirius grips his sword and asks if she knows where the enemies have gone.
Elena is startled, questioning if he is truly prepared to go out and fight now.
Sirius remains silent, his expression pale but undeniably resolute.
Elena mentions the threat posed by Karen, but Sirius insists on getting rid of him. He explains that Karen is a key military strategist favored by the Emperor.
Sirius warns that Karen will only return with a new plan if not stopped.
Elena questions his physical condition.
Sirius smiles gently, promising that he will not gamble with her safety again.
He reflects on how Elena was endangered simply by staying by his side.
A sudden firm clench sounds as Sirius grips his fist in silent resolve.
He believes that exterminating the enemies now is the only way to gain trust.
A dark vision depicts Sirius standing victoriously over his fallen foes.
Sirius is determined to make the world safe for Elena to be beside him.
Elena looks at him in silence, processing his intense dedication to her safety.
Her golden eyes sparkle with newfound determination and understanding.
Elena resolves to help Sirius with whatever powers she can provide.
Sirius notes that the enemies are currently searching the area beneath the clef. Sirius prepares to leave for a while, but Elena stops him by grabbing his sleeve.
Elena insists she cannot let him go alone and demands that he bring her along.
An enemy scout curses their inability to find the pair hiding in the woods.
A sudden, quick stomp sounds as the frustrated search party continues their hunt. A sudden, sharp crack sounds as Sirius launches a lethal ambush from above.
Sir Karen identifies the attacker as the young prince, Sirius. Sirius explains to Elena that the enemies have already used up their poisonous arrows.
Sirius tells Elena to hide on a high branch and keep her eyes tightly shut. Elena resolves to use her golden eyes to ensure Sirius stays safe during the battle. A soft, quick hum sounds as Elena's magical power begins to radiate from her hand.
The enemies cry out in sudden mental agony as Elena's power strikes them.
A sudden, sharp splash sounds as Sirius slashes through the dazed enemy forces.
Sir Karen watches in terror, realizing the slaughter is far beyond normal scale.
Karan is overwhelmed by the incredible speed and power the injured prince displays.
Karen struggles to focus, realizing the Emperor's rumors about Sirius were deceptive.
Sirius stands as a terrifying silhouette amidst the carnage of the forest clearing. Karen realizes with horror that the rumors of Sirius's divine strength are true.
Sir Karan wonders what kind of monster he has foolishly decided to provoke.
Sirius warns Karen not to let his mind wander while in the middle of a battle.
A sudden sharp splat sounds as the final confrontation ends in a spray of blood.
A heavy silence falls over the forest clearing filled with the fallen enemies.
Sirius stands alone in the grass, the sole victor of the brutal encounter.
Sirius feels a sense of relief that the dangerous battle is finally over.
Sirius believes that Elena will finally be safe from the immediate threat. Blood stains Sirius's face and clothes as the adrenaline of the fight fades.
Sirius worries that Elena only knows him as a hunter, not a killer of men.
He believes he cannot afford to show her this dark, violent side of himself.
Sirius wonders why Elena did not stay hidden as he had instructed her.
Elena's golden eyes shine with a mystical and intense brilliance from the shadows.
Sirius gazes at his blood-stained hand, filled with a sudden sense of self-loathing. Sirius fears that even he has begun to see himself as a monster. Elena calls out to Sirius, breaking his dark and introspective thoughts.
A sudden sharp gasp sounds as Sirius is startled by her nearby presence. Sirius wonders if Elena saw the horrific violence he just committed.
Sirius freezes as he turned his gaze toward her location.
Elena asks if she should wait a bit longer before opening her eyes. Sirius realizes that Elena is intentionally pretending to be blind to his actions.
Elena remains seated on the branch, keeping her face covered with her hands.
A sudden soft thud sounds as Sirius's heart is moved by her considerate lie. Elena continues to call out, asking where he is and if she can look.
Sirius tells Elena the battle is done, but she still cannot open her eyes.
Elena grumbles about the wait while Sirius watches her with a quiet gaze.
A dark memory recalls an assassin who once tried to infiltrate their home as a maid.
Young Sirius once trembled with fear that Elena would be afraid of his strength.
Young Elena had praised Sirius for his hard work and bravery in protecting her.
She had thanked him warmly for always keeping her safe from harm.
Sirius remembers how her simple words once outweighed his own godly strength.
Sirius understands that Elena has always protected him in her own unique way.
A gentle and genuine smile appears on Sirius's face as he looks at her.
Sirius thanks Elena for her care, but she reacts with playful and confused grumbling.
Sirius tells Elena not to mention her gratitude as she has also been protecting him.
Elena asks if she may open her eyes while he reaches for her hands.
Sirius smiles warmly at Elena as they sit together amidst the blooming flowers.
Sirius confirms the battle is over while holding her small white-gloved hands.
Sirius smiles contentedly while reflecting on the two of them being together. A sudden rhythmic rumble sounds as a carriage travels through the lush forest.
A brown-haired man sits inside the carriage, appearing exhausted and disheveled.
Sirius sits across from the sleeping Elena, his expression cold and unyielding.
Joseph offers Elena his knee as a pillow, but quickly points out a cushion.
Sirius glares menacingly at Joseph, who recoils in a fit of panicked sweat.
Joseph laughs nervously and asks if his suggestion is truly acceptable.
Sirius wishes for separate carriages while Joseph weakly agrees with the sentiment.
Joseph reflects on underestimating the Golden Field and his struggle to escape. Joseph recalls bumping into the pair after they slaughtered Courtney's entire game.
Sirius's purple eyes remain sharp and focused on the path ahead.
Joseph asks how to help Sirius while privately panicking that his thoughts were met.
Sirius suggests that Joseph leave the carriage for fresh air if he feels stuffy.
Joseph claims he is leaving due to Sirius's filth, not out of here.
Elena awakens and offers Joseph a blanket to keep him warm outside.
Joseph stares at Elena in stunned silence, a faint blush creeping onto his face.
A sudden, sharp snatch sounds as Joseph rudely takes the blanket while refusing thanks.
Elena observes Joseph's immature behavior, noting he acts like a petulant 17-year-old.
Sirius comments on her sisterly tone while Elena admits that is how she feels. Joseph sits outside in the cold while Sirius acknowledges the man's improved behavior.
Sirius recalls how Joseph risked his life to warn them of Courtney's imminent brat.
Sirius explains that Joseph's presence is fine as long as Elena approves. Sirius notices something small and unusual clinging to the back of Elena's hood.
Sirius alerts Elena to an object in her hood, making her panic about insects.
Sirius admits he might have seen it wrong to calm her sudden panic.
A sudden soft brush sounds as Sirius reaches out to inspect her dark hair.
A sudden, sharp gasp sounds while Sirius's purple eyes widen in pure disbelief.
Sirius holds a glowing golden leaf as magical circles manifest around his palm. Sirius reflects on the secret task passed down to him by the Duke.
Sirius notes that his priorities changed to keeping Elena safe after the incident broke out. Sirius believes fulfilling his task was unimportant compared to Elena's safety and stopping Courtney.
He recalls supporting a weary Elena as they escaped the forest together.
Sirius reflects on how trying to achieve everything might lead to achieving nothing at all.
Sirius hopes that eliminating Sir Karen will satisfy the Duke's plan for the throne.
A sudden soft stroke sounds as Sirius gently pets Elena's head as she sleeps. Sirius privately laments the loss of the reward originally promised by the Duke.
A glowing magical circle appears as Sirius realizes his initial assumptions were wrong. Sirius looks at the golden leaf, questioning if it could be the legendary item.
Sirius gazes at the glowing object, certain by intuition of its true identity. Sirius confirms that the item in his hand is definitely the fabled Rhodes gem.
Elena asks why he is silent, still worried about the presence of insects.
Sirius apologizes and tells Elena he found something very interesting in her hood. Sirius presents the glowing golden leaf to the startled Elena.
Elena's golden eye widens as she stares at the mystical object in shock. Elena wonders how it entered her hood while Sirius asks if she recognizes it.
Elena realizes she discovered the gem's location by chance while she was lost.
Sirius thoughtfully notes the strong winds likely caused the item to fall into her hood.
Her attempt to reveal their location is silenced by a sudden, quick tup sounding.
Sirius decides to share the truth despite the Duke's order for absolute secrecy.
Holding her hands firmly, Sirius prepares to reveal a secret he has kept hidden.
Sitting together, Sirius clarifies that the Duke included him in a different trial.
Elena reacts with total shock as Sirius explains his secret mission at the Golden Field. Sirius attempts to calm the panicked Elena by insisting that the matter is already settled. A glowing golden leaf rests within his palm, radiating a soft and mystical light.
Sirius identifies the mysterious leaf as the fabled Rhodes gem his master sought.
Elena's golden eyes sparkle with intense brilliance as she stares at the legendary artifact.
Both children admit their ignorance regarding the true nature of the mystical golden gem.
Sirius explains he is only guessing its identity due to the Duke's vague instructions.
He finds it strange that the Duke provided no guidance on finding the item. Elena thoughtfully wonders if her father deliberately withheld information or was truly uninformed.
Sirius is taken aback by Elena's suggestion that the Duke wants him kept in the dark.
A sudden rhythmic tudak sounds as the two share a lighthearted moment of alignment.
Sirius reflects on the Duke's mysterious behavior while the man sits in his office.
Elena warns Sirius that he must keep the location a secret from her.
She explains that her father's abilities would allow him to immediately locate them if he knew.
Elena recalls the magical entrance to the real Golden Field with a lingering uncertainty.
A dark vision depicts the beautiful field being consumed by her father's corrupting power. A soft, quick chuuk sounds as the dejected girl apologizes for her earlier lies.
Sirius dismisses her apology, expressing only sincere gratitude for the help she provided him.
Elena admires the gem's beauty while Sirius watches her with a subtle, affectionate blush. The pair walks together through a bright space, appearing like a happy, noble couple. Elena playfully shows off the dazzling gem while Sirius looks on with a tender gaze.
A sudden rhythmic dagoon sounds as Sirius's heart races while looking at her smile.
Gripping his knee, Sirius acknowledges he is in deep trouble with his growing feelings.
He fears that his long-held secrets might finally burst out due to her presence. Sirius leans in close, fighting the urge to reveal his true thoughts and feelings. Sirius's expression shifts to worry as he calls out Elena's name in concern.
Placing his hand on her face, Sirius informs the confused Elena she has a fever. A sudden, firm diapsok sounds as he insists she lay down and rest immediately.
Sirius blames himself for not noticing her exhaustion sooner as they traveled together.
Lying back, Elena insists on sharing her feelings before she loses her strength. Resting in his lap, Elena confesses her genuine happiness at traveling by his side.
Sirius offers a warm and gentle smile, quietly agreeing with her heartfelt sentiment.
A soft, quick ham sounds as Elena asks to be woken upon their arrival. Sirius carries the unconscious Elena back into the castle as her illness takes hold. 3 days have passed since their return, and Elena remains asleep in her chamber. Sirius notes with relief that her complexion has finally begun to improve during her rest. A sudden rhythmic tick-tock sounds as a knock at the door interrupts his vigil.
A servant enters the room, informing Sirius that his presence is requested immediately.
A sudden sharp quack sounds as Sirius prepares to meet the Duke's summons.
A sudden sharp keek sounds as Sirius enters the Duke's study as instructed.
A sudden soft hoot sounds as Sirius nervously glances around the familiar room.
The Duke greets Sirius with a smile, noting the long wait for their meeting.
Narrative text explains the Duke's immediate departure following the news regarding the traitor Courtney. Courtney is officially branded a traitor after failing to return following the recent events.
Sirius reflects on the Duke's coldness toward Elena and Joseph after being summoned.
A sudden rhythmic top sounds as the Duke reveals how Courtney contacted the Emperor. The Duke explains the betrayal involved Knight Commander Karen, the Emperor's right hand.
A sudden sharp snap sounds while the Duke fumes over the betrayal within his bloodline.
Sirius questions what information was leaked, and the Duke mentions the Golden Field map. The Duke explains that Count Maximilian likely saw the map as a critical strategic opportunity. Narrative text identifies Count Maximilian as the Emperor's brain, working alongside his right hand. The Duke notes that Maximilian himself must have pushed for the Knight Commander's involvement. The Duke smiles triumphantly, declaring that the conflict ultimately ended in his own victory. Narrative text recalls how Sirius killed Charon, proving the Knight Commander was no match. The Duke privately acknowledges that Sirius's worth far exceeds his initial expectations. A sudden quick snap sounds as the Duke demands that Sirius get to the point.
The Duke orders Sirius to present what he brought from the Golden Field.
A sudden rhythmic thud sounds as Sirius approaches the Duke's desk with a box.
A sudden firm thud sounds as Sirius presents a glowing object to his master.
A sudden soft sparkle sounds as the Duke praises the glowing golden branch.
The Duke considers Elena the next successor now that Joseph's achievement has been surpassed.
The Duke requests to see the next item while Sirius remains quiet and focused.
A sudden quick click sounds as Sirius opens a dark box to reveal another item.
A sudden soft rustle sounds as Sirius presents the legendary gem he found by chance.
Sirius stares at the glowing golden leaf, unable to believe its sudden appearance. A sudden rhythmic thump sounds as the Duke confirms he is holding the Rhodes gem.
The Duke mutters about the discovery while Sirius reacts with internal shock and confusion.
Sirius finds it strange that the gem is exactly as he had once imagined it. Sirius lies about finding the gem in his clothes, desperately trying to remain calm.
A sudden, sharp flash sounds as the Duke glares intensely, suspecting something about Sirius's story.
Sirius explains he didn't notice the gem in his hood until after leaving the forest. Sirius insists he has no idea where the item originated, despite the Duke's probing questions. The Duke observes Sirius's nervousness but concludes the boy is not technically lying.
The Duke reflects on the successful recovery of the Rhodes gem despite Sirius's ignorance.
The Duke declares that Sirius has passed the test and prepares for his next plan.
As promised for his success, the Duke asks Sirius to state his deepest wish.
The Duke plans to exclude Sirius from future missions to prevent any potential for betrayal.
The Duke anticipates Sirius will wish for Elena, leading to their eventual engagement.
A sudden soft rustle sounds as Sirius prepares to speak his heart's true desire.
Sirius shocks the Duke by wishing for Elena to be removed from the Rhodes family.
Sirius explains his wish is to grant Elena the freedom she has always desired.
The ornate ceiling of the mansion looms over the silent, tense room. A sudden rhythmic thump sounds as Sirius walks away, praising himself for the choice.
Sirius struggles to breathe, questioning the heavy emotional toll of his selfless decision. A sudden rhythmic thump sounds as Sirius realizes he has cost out his own salvation. A sudden sharp gasp sounds as the startled Joseph encounters Sirius near Elena's room. Joseph informs a silent Sirius that Elena has still not awakened since their return. A sudden rhythmic scuttle sounds as the panicked Joseph quickly flees from Sirius' presence. A sudden rhythmic thud sounds as Sirius enters the room where Elena lies resting.
Elena remains deep in sleep, unaware of the sacrifice Sirius has just made.
A sudden rustle sounds as the emotional weight finally breaks Sirius's composure.
Sirius collapses into a hug over the sleeping Elena, sobbing as he whispers her name.
Sirius recalls avoiding such intimacy for fear of falling even deeper in love with her. A sudden soft drip sounds as Sirius's tears fall while he laments his lost future.
The Duke of Rhodes kneels before Elena, questioning if her perfect golden eyes truly lack power. Elena reflects that the original book never mentioned special powers within her golden eyes.
She recalls staying close to her father and smiling through threats to avoid acknowledging his true nature.
Lying awake, Elena realizes the Duke never loved her as his own child from the start.
She concludes with bitterness that he only ever valued the rarity of her golden eyes.
Elena reflects on the terrible family dynamics where siblings' harassment and inheritance struggles define their home.
A soft huff sounds as Elena decides she must simply endure the situation for now.
A vibrating tension surrounds the declaration that her destiny will soon be destroyed by Sirius.
Elena considers her proximity to Sirius, hoping he will eventually forget their awkward encounters today.
Sirius watches her, reflecting on how long it has been since he witnessed such pure joy. Tossing in bed, Elena wonders if Sirius found her outburst as amusing as she suspects.
A subtle sliding sound echoes as Elena wonders what the prince is doing next door.
She quickly dismisses her curiosity, insisting to herself that she is not some strange pervert.
A soft hiccup breaks the silence as Elena notices how quiet it is in the neighboring room.
Elena freezes against the wall, her attention captured by an unexpected sound from the prince's room.
Sweat beads on her brow as she realizes the sound is one of distress.
Elena panics upon realizing that the stoic and cold Sirius Hyperion is actually crying.
She recalls how Sirius remained unmoved by the Duke and Courtney, marveling that he has tears.
Hearing another soft sob, Elena agonizes over whether she should intervene or remain in her room.
She reminds herself that the prince is only 10 and currently facing immense pressure and isolation.
Standing in the darkness, Elena questions what could have finally broken the future emperor's composure.
Her gaze softens as she considers if she should attempt to comfort the weeping boy. A tight grip sounds as Elena's conscience struggles with her desire to overlook his pain.
A sudden rustle sounds as she dives back under the covers, trying to ignore her instincts.
Elena resolves to stick to her plan of doing nothing to avoid upsetting the novel's timeline.
She reflects on how Sirius is her only potential ally in a family that ridicules her.
A soft shuffle sounds as Elena decides that offering a little comfort might be necessary.
A sharp creak echoes as she slowly opens her door, stepping out into the hallway.
She moves cautiously, hoping that no one will notice her late-night wandering in the mansion.
A transitional moment passes as Elena navigates her path through the silent, dark mansion.
A dull thud sounds as Elena collapses onto her bed again, terrified of changing Sirius's emotions.
She worries that comforting him would reveal she was eavesdropping and potentially make him angry.
Pulling the covers tight, Elena declares it is none of her business and tries to sleep.
The next morning, Elena stands with heavy eyes, looking completely drained from her sleepless night.
A weary stumble sounds as she laments how her conscience and nightmares kept her awake.
Elena reflects that worrying about the main character is a pointless waste of her energy.
Alongside sounds as Elena decides to prioritize worrying about her own difficult future.
Walking toward breakfast, Elena resolves to eat well to grow taller despite her lack of sleep.
Hiya! Elena screams in absolute shock as she finds Sirius waiting right outside her door.
A rapid thump sounds as Elena's heart races from the sudden and unexpected startle.
Sirius sits on the windowsill while Elena wonders if he has actually been waiting for her.
Her face flushes red with embarrassment as she wonders what the silent prince could possibly want.
A nervous fidget sounds as Elena considers if it is weirder to talk or just pass by.
Sirius asks if she slept well, to which Elena offers a quiet and uncertain response.
Elena tries to escape quickly, hoping he will forget their awkward encounter as a casual conversation.
An awkward silence follows as the girl hesitates while the silver-haired boy watches her walk.
Elena is stunned that Sirius responded to her, wondering if he has become more emotional.
She considers that it makes more sense if he plans to question her about eavesdropping.
A magical sparkle surrounds the boy as Elena observes his surprisingly good mood this morning. Scratching her head, Elena wonders if the sounds of him crying were only a dream. Sirius reflects on a childhood promise to eventually help Elena escape her family's grasp.
Tears stream down Sirius's face as he grapples with the weight of his heartbreaking decision.
Seeking a moment of comfort, the silver-haired boy quietly pleads for even a small measure of praise.
Narrative text highlights Elena's long-standing resentment toward her own noble bloodline and origins.
A mystical vision depicts how the family's corruption threatens to eventually consume Elena's purity.
Sirius, standing before the girl, realizes that his presence has become a burden on her life.
Dark, shadowy figures loom as Sirius acknowledges the constant danger that follows anyone by his side.
Looking away, Sirius notes that their struggles will continue as long as the Emperor remains in power.
Holding her hand firmly, he explains his refusal to gamble with her safety any longer.
Sirius vows to grow strong enough to eventually protect the girl from the Emperor's reach.
Watching her sleep, the boy concludes that distancing himself is the only way to ensure her protection.
The morning sun glimmers across the ornate gold carvings of the sleeping girl's bedframe.
Elena finally stirs from her long slumber and rubs her eyes in the quiet room.
Raising her arms high, Elena stretches and notes with relief that her heavy fever has broken.
She experiences a hazy memory of Sirius visiting her bedside while she was deep in sleep.
Settling back into her pillows, the brown-haired girl wonders if the emotional encounter was just a dream.
Recalling the vision of his tears, Elena resolves to find a way to cheer the boy up.
Elena realizes she must reach the dining room before it's too late.
She anticipates that Sirius will likely be joining her for breakfast. Elena reflects on the boy's handsome appearance and his potential cold future.
She finds his messy morning hair adorable, comparing it to a dandelion. A rhythmic tapping sounds as Elena wonders if he is actually shorter.
The dining room feels incredibly distant as Elena struggles to catch her breath.
A sharp creak sounds as Elena cautiously pushes open the heavy doors.
She enters the grand dining room, finding it completely empty as expected.
Elena knows that her family has likely already finished their morning meal.
Elena recalls how the rest of her family always leaves her behind.
She reflects on the Duke's discrimination and her low status at home.
Elena clenches her fist, wishing for her toxic family's eventual total downfall.
A soft sniffing sounds as Elena detects a delicious scent in the air.
The rich aroma of stewed tomatoes fills the quiet dining room.
A rapid pattering sounds as Elena eagerly rushes toward the hot meal.
A sudden, firm grip stops Elena in her tracks as she reaches out.
Sirius abruptly questions her destination while Elena reacts in total wide-eyed shock.
Elena explains her intent to eat, but Sirius notes they are already there.
She decides that showing the boy the kitchen routine is much faster.
A bowl of hot tomato soup sits ready on the dining table.
Elena instructs Sirius to fetch his own food from the kitchen daily.
Sirius observes the simplicity of the task as he prepares to eat.
Elena reflects on the prince's lack of complaints despite his harsh treatment.
A sharp zing sounds as Elena is startled by the boy's gaze.
Elena wonders why he is staring and fears he dislikes the food. Noting the lack of a red aura, she prioritizes eating over talk. Elena cheerfully encourages Sirius to enjoy his meal amidst a flowery atmosphere.
Sirius stares intensely at his soup, seemingly deep in his own thoughts.
A soft clink sounds as Sirius politely returns the sentiment to Elena.
Elena realizes that the young prince is much more polite than expected.
She remembers how Sirius previously waited specifically for her to greet him.
Elena concludes that he was indeed waiting for a greeting this morning.
She questions why the future emperor is so obsessed with simple greetings.
Elena jokingly wonders if the silver-haired boy is actually some greeting fairy. She notes his fairy-like appearance but recalls his future as a lunatic.
Elena remembers his ruthless nature and his ability to shed enemy blood.
Sirius is characterized as someone who always pays back what he receives.
Elena reflects on her own lonely childhood and her past emotional struggles.
She recalls his crying but decides his actions are ultimately beyond understanding.
A sharp creak sounds as Elena resolves to focus on her duties. A steady thudding sounds as Sirius finishes his meal and walks away.
A loud bang sounds as Elena wonders why the boy left so abruptly. Elena remains at the table alone, reflecting on the strange morning encounter.
A heavy thud sounds as Courtney's angry voice echoes from the courtyard.
Constant thudding sounds as Elena listens to the commotion from the second floor.
She considers Joseph's presence while watching the scene from her high window. A loud crash sounds as Elena witnesses Sirius training under the Duke's watch.
Elena observes the intense training session between the Duke and the young prince.
She admits her interest in seeing the main character's first developmental step. Elena confesses she is simply bored and has nothing else to do.
Elena reflects on the isolating mansion environment, noting that no one has spoken to her all day.
A lone chess piece sits on the board as Elena considers the mansion's strange, isolated location.
Elena recalls being bedridden and weak since birth, with everyone expecting her to die after the Duke withdrew his affection.
She notes the Duke's inconsistency, recalling how he let her sixth brother die from a cold but sent a doctor for her.
Servants gossip about the Duke's strange actions, debating whether to be kind to Elena or follow his abusive example.
Elena feels like a ghost as the people around her decide the best course of action is to treat her like air. Gripping her sleeve tightly, the girl laments that she is a ghost who is very much alive and constantly bored.
Sirius engages in intense sword training in the courtyard, and Elena watches, determined not to miss out on the action.
Elena peeks out of her window, dodging flying debris while wondering when she will be able to master such skills.
Sirius stands with a massive white wolf spirit behind him, serving as proof of the Hyperion mythology within his small body.
Elena observes the boy's purple eyes, noting his extraordinary strength, animal-like intuition, and broad vision compared to normal people.
Elena stares with wide golden eyes, stunned by the power the silver-haired boy displays during his training session.
Fragments of a training dummy lie scattered around Sirius as the Duke considers if the boy should be called a monster.
A soft breeze sounds as the Duke watches Sirius, while Elena and several maids observe the tense training session.
Steady footsteps sound as the Duke of Rhodes approaches Sirius, asking if that is all he can show him, to which the boy quietly confirms.
Looking down at the wreckage, the Duke calls the display a mess, prompting Elena to react in absolute wide-eyed shock.
Elena is confused, questioning if he actually said it was a mess or if she misheard him say it was marvelous.
The Duke commands his guards to bring a counter-training tool, which Elena recognizes as a device for repetitive sword practice.
Elena explains that the simple structure uses moving numbered papers for repetition, making it notoriously boring, and wonders why Sirius must use it.
A metallic slide sounds as the Duke of Rhodes draws his own sword to demonstrate a technique for the boy.
A stylized white energy trail marks the path of a powerful sword strike through the air of the courtyard.
A soft flutter sounds as the Duke stands before the training dummy, having effortlessly reset the numbered papers with his swing.
Elena watches in awe, reflecting on the Duke's immense talent and how he serves as a perfect textbook example of skill.
A firm nod sounds as Sirius prepares for the next phase of training after the Duke gives the order to start.
A deep breath sounds as Sirius steps toward the wooden training dummy while the Duke watches him closely from behind.
A sharp grip sounds as Sirius tightly clenches the handle of his sword, readying himself for a powerful strike.
A loud crunch sounds as Sirius swings his sword with enough force to completely shatter the heavy wooden training equipment.
Wood fragments fly through the air as the sheer force of the boy's strike destroys the counter-training tool. Elena whispers, "Oh my God," as she watches from her window, marveling at how much more stable and powerful Sirius has become.
Steady footsteps sound as Sirius walks away, appearing exhausted after using all his strength to perform the Duke's difficult task.
The Duke of Rhodes watches the boy depart, his expression remaining cold and unreadable despite the impressive show of strength. A sudden snap sounds as Elena flinches in shock, her golden eyes reflecting the intense and frightening atmosphere below. A sudden snap sounds as Elena flinches in shock, her golden eyes reflecting the intense and frightening atmosphere below.
A dull thud sounds as Elena slumps onto the floor, overwhelmed by the terrifying display of power she just witnessed.
Heavy trembling sounds as Elena's hand shakes on the floor, her body feeling completely drained of all its strength.
Elena trembles with fear, realizing she should never have come to watch and recalling the years of punishment from the Duke. The Duke and Sirius stand in the center of the training ground, surrounded by the remnants of the broken wooden equipment.
A sudden flinch sounds as Elena hears the Duke tell Sirius his posture is rough and he must learn the basics.
A tight squeeze sounds as Elena covers her eyes, deciding she must stop looking and return to her own room immediately.
Elena rushes down the long hallway, desperate to distance herself from the intense scene taking place in the courtyard.
The girl runs across the red carpet, determined to stop her own trembling as she seeks the safety of her chamber.
Elena lies in her dark room at night, staring up at the ceiling as the mansion settles into a quiet stillness. A stomach growl sounds as Elena clenches her belly, realizing that she is extremely hungry after skipping her evening meal.
A long sigh sounds as Elena struggles with her hunger, deciding that she needs to find some food to regain her appetite.
A quick glance sounds as Elena looks toward the wall, wondering if Sirius has returned or eaten anything after his training.
Elena recalls from the book that Sirius never wavers regardless of the Duke's punishment, leading her to believe he is fine.
A heartbeat sounds in the silence as Elena resolves to focus only on taking care of herself for the time being.
A sudden startle sounds as Elena jolts awake in bed, her attention captured by an unexpected noise from the next room.
A quick jolt sounds as Elena sits up, wondering if Sirius has finally returned from training so late in the night. A loud rattle sounds as Elena sits against the thin wall, hearing the boy's sigh and realizing how easily sound travels.
Elena imagines Sirius groaning in exhaustion from the Duke's harsh training.
Narrations describe a bounty placed on Sirius's life in the novel.
Elena sits in her bed, hearing the boy's distant groans of pain.
The sounds of suffering from the next room keep Elena awake.
Elena realizes the boy must be in agony despite being asleep.
Elena panics and decides she must help to prevent his death.
Elena reminds herself that the story's main character must survive.
The narrative confirms Sirius's future survival and eventual rise to power.
Elena struggles with the guilt of leaving the boy in pain.
Elena recalls her previous decision to ignore his silent suffering.
Elena resolves to act and rushes out to provide assistance. Elena justifies her aid by calling Sirius her vital insurance policy.
Elena rationalizes her choice as a necessary step for her own survival.
A soft click sounds as Elena cautiously enters the dark room.
Elena finds the courage to sneak in when she hears no reaction.
Elena worries about the danger if the future emperor remembers her help.
Elena recalls the bloody future where Sirius slaughters his many enemies.
Elena remembers how he even killed the person who befriended him.
The narrative reveals that person was a traitor who poisoned his food.
Sirius's purple eyes narrow as he remains suspicious of unearned kindness.
Elena fears her secret mission might accidentally lead to her downfall.
Elena peeks through the door, softly calling out to the boy.
Elena enters the dark room, finding the silence deeply unsettling.
A sharp gasp sounds as Elena's secret plan is interrupted by horror. Elena cries out in shock upon seeing Sirius's battered, bloodied state.
Sirius groans in agony while sweating profusely from a dangerous fever.
Elena covers her mouth in horror, blaming her father's training methods.
A quick tapping sounds as Elena rushes to the boy's bedside. Elena realizes Sirius is unresponsive and barely holding on to life. A soft touch sounds as Elena checks the boy's burning forehead.
Elena panics over his temperature and rushes to gather medical supplies.
Elena recalls having fever reducers stored away in her own room.
Elena grabs the medicine, thankful the Duke still provides for her health.
Rapid footsteps sound as Elena hurries back to help the dying boy. Elena desperately pleads for her insurance policy to survive the night.
Elena stares at the injured boy, determined to keep him alive.
A heavy splashing sounds as Elena arrives with a full bucket. Elena hesitates, terrified that her touch might wake the dangerous boy.
Elena begins her treatment, relieved that the boy remains in a stupor.
A sudden hiccup sounds as Elena struggles to maintain her composure. Elena marvels at the boy's mangled hands, cursing the Duke's training.
A quick rustle sounds as Elena dashes away for more supplies.
A soft dripping sounds as Elena begins cleaning the boy's face.
Sirius moans in pain while Elena encourages him to hold on.
A faint rustling sounds as Elena searches for the fever medicine.
A soft trickling sounds as Elena carefully administers the liquid remedy.
Elena sighs in relief as the boy swallows most of the medicine.
Elena remains by the bedside, patiently cooling the boy's burning skin.
A steady splashing sounds as Elena spends the night tending to Sirius.
Elena collapses onto the floor as the boy's fever finally breaks.